"What's wrong, Jin Tong?" Han Li hurriedly asked in a concerned voice through their spiritual connection, but received no response. He activated his bright sight spirit eyes as he turned his gaze back to the gold devouring Immortal, upon which he discovered that it had descended back down onto the ground, and it was completely concealed within the vast cloud of dust and baleful qi that was hanging in the air. Right at this moment, Taoist Zai, who had fled the scene earlier, arrived by Han Li's side, and Han Li immediately said, "Something seems to have gone wrong on Jin Tong's end, so I have to go and take a look. Please look after fellow Taoist Mo Guang in my absence, Brother Zai." Taoist Zai gave an affirmative response, and Han Li immediately flew down into the completely collapsed ravine. He quickly traversed through the dust and baleful qi, and it didn't take long before he arrived at the body of the gold-devouring Immortal. At this moment, the gold-devouring Immortal was laying on the ground in a completely still manner, and there was a layer of near-transparent light over its body, but Jin Tong was nowhere to be seen. If it weren't for the faint spiritual connection that still existed between the two of them, Han Li would have been led to believe that Jin Tong had already met her demise. After taking a moment to compose himself, Han Li immediately swept his spiritual sense over the gold-devouring Immortal's body, upon which he discovered it was still teeming with vitality, and that its spiritual sense fluctuations were particularly strong. It immediately occurred to Han Li that the gold-devouring Immortal had to have forced its way into Jin Tong's consciousness in an attempt to devour her soul, seeing as she was about to sever the arteries leading to its heart. As it turned out, this was precisely the case. At this moment, there were two golden beetles that were tearing ferociously at each other within Jin Tong's consciousness. One of the beetles was larger in stature, but the light emanating from its body was rather dull, clearly indicating that it was still yet to make a full recovery. In contrast, the smaller beetle was enshrouded in a layer of radiant golden light, and it held the home advantage, so it was not apparent which one of the two was going to come out on top. There was no communication at all between the two of them, and each of them was focused solely on killing the other. The sounds of tearing rang out incessantly as the two golden beetles tore away at each other's bodies, but no blood flowed out of the wounds. Instead, layers of misty golden light emerged in the place of blood. The high zenith stage beetle lunged forward, only for Jin Tong to evade its attack, and before it had a chance to arrest its own momentum, Jin Tong bit down onto its wing before tearing off a chunk. However, right at this moment, the high zenith stage beetle suddenly swiveled around, paying no heed to its injured wing as it bit down toward Jin Tong's head. Jin Tong was unable to evade the attack, and it seemed that she was going to be decapitated. In this dire situation, a streak of translucent white light suddenly appeared in her consciousness, then struck the high zenith stage beetle on the head like a bolt of white lightning, causing it to tumble down from above. However, the streak of white light also sent a burst of sharp pain spearing through Jin Tong's soul. After gritting her teeth momentarily to suppress the pain, Jin Tong immediately flew toward the high zenith stage beetle, then bit down toward its head. Outside the body of the gold-devouring Immortal, Han Li was seated on the ground with his legs crossed and his eyes closed. He had sensed the peril that Jin Tong was in, and he had channeled his spirit refinement technique once again to forcibly send a spiritual sense thread into her consciousness, thereby saving her just in the nick of time. The next day, at around noon, a loud crack suddenly rang out, rousing Han Li from his seated meditation. He took a glance at Mo Guang and Taoist Zai, who were seated not far away from him, then turned his gaze to the gold-devouring Immortal's body, upon which he discovered that the layer of translucent light over it had already faded. At the same time, its vitality was seeping away at a rapid speed. Immediately thereafter, Jin Tong flew out of the gash on the gold, devouring Immortal's body. A faint smile appeared on Han Li's face upon seeing this, and he was just about to say something when Jin Tong declared in an expressionless manner, "Please keep a lookout for me, uncle." Han Li's brows furrowed ever so slightly at the sight of her cold demeanor, but he still nodded in response. After that, he, Taoist Zai, and Mo Guang all retreated to several kilometers away, forming a triangle around Jin Tong and the body of the high zenith stage gold devouring Immortal. Jin Tong took a glance at the three of them, then rose up into the air above the body before slowly closing her eyes. With a sweep of her hand, a vast expanse of golden light surged out of her body, then began to swirl in midair, forming a golden vortex that was rapidly expanding, reaching several thousand feet in size in the blink of an eye. Countless golden runes were swirling within the vortex, giving off bursts of formidable law-power fluctuations that contained some type of violent aura, and the body of the gold devouring Immortal was slowly being sucked into the vortex. All of a sudden, Jin Tong's eyes sprang open, and the golden light radiating from her body became even brighter while also taking on a more substantial form. In the next instant, all of the world's origin chi within a radius of thousands of kilometers began to converge toward the golden vortex in a frenzy, and the nearby ground also split open as bursts of spiritual power surged out of the underground spirit vines and into the golden vortex. In the blink of an eye, an enormous five-colored spirit cloud appeared in the sky above the golden vortex, and arcs of five-colored lightning were flashing incessantly within the cloud. Inside the golden vortex, Jin Tong's body was gradually enshrouded within the surrounding golden light until she was completely out of sight, but her aura was clearly elevating and steadily growing stronger. Han Li was standing in midair not far away, observing the unfolding scene in silence. Mo Guang was also standing in silence with his hands clasped behind his back, and it was unclear what he was thinking. As for Taoist Zai, it had sat down and closed its eyes to meditate, seemingly completely uninterested in what was happening to Jin Tong. Zio Bai arrived by Han Li's side, then looked up at the five-colored cloud in the sky with a hint of envy in its eyes as it exclaimed, "She's about to make another breakthrough." The golden vortex was revolving faster and faster, while the gold devouring Immortal's body continued to be sucked into it bit by bit. All of a sudden, the golden vortex expanded drastically, and an incredibly bright ball of golden light appeared at its center, while countless golden runes of different sizes emerged around the ball of golden light. Immediately thereafter, a series of massive bulges suddenly began to appear over the surface of the ball of the golden light, and it was also swaying and trembling incessantly. At the same time, a string of low roars rang out from within. It was Jin Tong's voice, and she sounded both agitated and in a great deal of pain. Han Li's brows furrowed slightly upon hearing this, and a grim look appeared on his face. Right at this moment, a projection of a giant golden beetle suddenly emerged within the golden vortex. The projection was identical to the gold devouring Immortal that had just been killed, and it was roaming throughout the vortex while roaring with fury, displaying intense animosity toward the ball of the golden light at the center of the vortex. Jin Tong has destroyed that gold devouring Immortal soul, but there's still some residual resentful intent left in its body. If Jin Tong is to completely absorb the gold devouring Immortal, then she must defeat its resentful intent first, Mo Guang suddenly explained. As soon as his voice trailed off, a thunderous roar rang out from within the ball of golden light, immediately following which a thick pillar of golden light erupted forth from within, then faded to reveal another giant golden beetle projection, this one representing Jin Tong. A burst of thunderous rumbling rang out as the projection of Jin Tong pounced at the other golden beetle projection with tremendous power, and the other projection did the same, meeting Jin Tong with an equal degree of ferocity. A battle immediately ensued between the two, and a string of resounding booms rang out as they clashed over and over again. The beetle projection formed by Jin Tong was a little smaller in stature compared with its opponent, and it was constantly being forced back, seemingly on the back foot. "She's in trouble, master. We have to help her," Zoisia yelled in an urgent voice upon seeing this. "We can't help her. She has to face this battle alone," Han Li replied with a calm shake of his head. As soon as his voice trailed off, a resounding boom rang out as Jin Tong's projection was sent flying back through the air. The other golden beetle projection let loose a roar of excitement as it sprang forward in pursuit, while lashing out with its pair of massive front limbs, preparing to tear Jin Tong's body to shreds. Right at this moment, Jin Tong steadied herself before twisting around in midair, flying through the gap between her opponent's front limbs before appearing behind it in the blink of an eye. Before the golden beetle projection had a chance to react, Jin Tong wrapped her legs tightly around it from behind, completely immobilizing it. At the same time, she raised her front limbs and slashed them at the golden beetle projection's head. Even though the golden beetle projection wasn't able to turn around to face her, it was still able to raise its own front limbs to withstand the attack, and a loud clang rang out as the two pairs of front limbs clashed, sending flurries of sparks flying in all directions. A deranged look appeared in Jin Tong's eyes as she suddenly threw her head back and roared to the heavens, following which both of her front limbs began to glow with blinding golden light. Another resounding clang rang out as Jin Tong's front limbs sliced through those of her opponent, then severed its head in one swift and violent stroke. The decapitated body of the golden beetle projection instantly exploded into a vast expanse of golden light, and Jin Tong immediately opened her mouth to release a burst of suction force, upon which all of the golden light surged into her mouth like a golden wave. A burst of spiritual light flashed over the golden beetle projection formed by Jin Tong, and it instantly took on a far more substantial form, following which it began to undergo a transformation into a tall and thin humanoid form. An incredibly tremendous burst of pressure erupted out of the humanoid figure's body, and it was different from spiritual pressure in that it seemed to be coming from a higher life form, like the aura of a deity in the face of mere mortals. Han Li and the others were gathered nearby, and all of them were instantly enshrouded within this burst of crushing pressure. Zoisia was the one who fared the worst out of everyone, letting loose an agonized cry as blood began to flow out of all of its orifices, and it instantly reverted back into a white jade pendant that attached itself back to Han Li's waist. As for Han Li himself, his vision turned completely dark, and he felt as if he had been dealt a heavy blow to the chest, causing him to stumble back close to 20 steps before steadying himself. Taoist Zai had already flown back into Han Li's body for shelter, while Guang remained largely unaffected despite the severe injuries that he sustained, once again putting on display the incredible physical constitution of the gray, immortal body that he had attained. The golden humanoid figure only lingered in midair for a few seconds before flying into the ball of golden light, following which the golden vortex abruptly expanded even further like a gargantuan golden mouth. A burst of tremendous suction force then erupted out of the vortex, sucking in the five-colored spirit cloud up above. The golden vortex was like an insatiable, bottomless pit, and it continued to slowly expand as it devoured the spirit cloud in the sky. Around 15 minutes later, the entire spirit cloud had disappeared without a trace, and only then did the golden vortex begin to shrink. A few seconds later, the golden vortex vanished as well, and all that remained in the sky was a golden ball that was around 10 feet in size, resembling a giant golden egg. Han Li heaved an internal sigh of relief upon seeing this, but he was still reeling from the recollection of the terrifying golden figure that he had just witnessed. The golden ball continued to hover in midair as streaks of dazzling golden light occasionally flashed over its surface. At the same time, it was giving off bursts of formidable aura fluctuations, and it seemed that there was something extremely fearsome being nurtured inside. After a brief moment of contemplation, Han Li flew over to the golden ball, following which a streak of white light slid out of his sleeve, then transformed into a small white flag. This was one of the immortal treasures that he had obtained from Guang, and it instantly began to swell drastically at his behest, forming a giant white flag that was several 100 feet in size. A vast expanse of white mist surged out of the flag, forming a white cloud that was several acres in size in the blink of an eye, completely concealing the golden ball within it. The cloud seemed to have an aura concealment effect, and the astonishing aura emanating from the golden ball was instantly significantly diminished. "Let's get out of here for now," Han Li said, and he was just about to depart with the white cloud and the golden ball when he suddenly stopped cold in his tracks. A white-robed young man had appeared not far in front of him, completely without his detection. The man was extremely handsome, and he appeared to be 30 to 40 years of age with a head of flowing black hair, running down the middle of which was a lock of faintly shimmering golden hair. Even with his enormous spiritual sense, Han Li was completely oblivious to the man's arrival, and Mo Guang had clearly also been caught off guard. It was as if the man had been conjured up out of thin air. Even though there was no powerful aura emanating from the man's body, Han Li's instincts told him that the man possessed unfathomable power. The white-robed man took a glance at Han Li and Mo Guang, and he made no attempt to announce his intentions. Han Li was silent for a moment, then asked, "May I ask your name, Senior?" Instead of answering Han Li's question, the white-robed man smiled and remarked, "You did very well. I must say, you really did surprise me." Han Li was even more alarmed upon hearing this. It was clear from this remark that the white-robed man had arrived on the scene long ago, and perhaps he had even witnessed the entire battle that Han Li had fought against the gold-devouring Immortal. All of a sudden, a thought occurred to Han Li, and he exclaimed, "Your voice! Could it be that you were the one who trapped that gold-devouring Immortal for 20 years? "That's right," the white-robed man replied in a calm manner. "Thank you for helping me in my time of need, Senior," Han Li said in a serious manner as he extended a grateful bow. If the gold-devouring Immortal hadn't been trapped for those 20 years, he and Jin Tong would have most likely already met their demise at this point, so it was no exaggeration to say that this man had saved their lives. "I only acted on the request of someone else," the white-robed man said in an indifferent voice. Han Li was rather taken aback to hear this. "I helped you to repay you for helping Lair all those years ago. From this day forth, any connection between the two of you is severed," the white-robed man explained. "Lair Liu Lair, is she with you right now, Senior? How is she?" Han Li immediately asked. "Lair is doing very well. Like I just said, the two of you shared some history back in the spirit domain realm, but any ties between the two of you have already been severed, so you are not to meet her again," the white-robed man said in a cold voice. Han Li was silent for a moment, then nodded in response. Even though the white-robed man hadn't displayed his cultivation base, Han Li was confident that he had to be a great encompassment stage being. In the face of such a formidable being, Han Li had no choice but to comply with all of his demands. In any case, Han Li was happy as long as Liu Lair was doing well. The white-robed man's expression eased slightly at the sight of Han Li's compliant display, and he added, "Also, you're forbidden from telling anyone about what happened here." Once again, Han Li was rather surprised to hear this, but he didn't display his surprise as he nodded in response once again. After that, the white-robed man flipped a hand over to produce an azure jade slip before tossing it at Han Li, who reflexively caught it. "This is a map. Get away from this place as soon as possible and don't come back again," the white-robed man said, then took a glance at Mo Guang as a peculiar look flashed through his eyes, following which he abruptly vanished from the spot. Han Li faltered slightly upon seeing this, following which a wry smile appeared on his face. It seemed that human cultivators really were very unpopular in the primordial land. If it weren't for his past ties with Liu Lair, perhaps the white-robed man would have struck him down on the spot. After a brief silence, Mo Guang turned to Han Li as he said, "That man felt even more fearsome to me than that high zenith stage gold devouring immortal. Could it be that he's a great encompassment stage being?" Han Li offered no response, and after taking a deep breath to compose himself, he injected a wisp of his spiritual sense into the azure jade slip. Much to his elation, the map provided by the white-robed man was quite detailed, marking out 4 enormous territories that belonged to 4 major races, and all of them were marked as forbidden areas. The area that Han Li had passed through earlier was part of the Heavenly Fox race's territory, and with that in mind, it occurred to him that the white-robed man from earlier was most likely the patriarch of this Heavenly Fox race. As for Liu Lair, she was said to have been taken by a member of her own race, so she was most likely a member of this Heavenly Fox race as well. In that case, it seemed like Han Li didn't need to be concerned for her. Outside of these 4 areas, there was also a relatively safe route leading to the Black Mountain Immortal region marked out on the map. After a brief inspection, Han Li withdrew his spiritual sense out of the jade slip. "What do you plan to do from here, fellow Taoist Han?" Mo Guang asked. "We're clearly not welcome here, so let's leave this place before we're forced to leave," Han Li replied as he summoned the green jade flying carriage, then made a hand seal, and the white cloud rapidly shrank down into a ball of dense white mist that carried the golden ball that contained Jin Tong onto the carriage. "Fellow Taoist Han, would you happen to have a yin attribute spirit beast pouch?" Mo Guang suddenly asked. Han Li faltered slightly upon hearing this, then searched through his belongings briefly before producing a black spirit beast pouch that he handed over to Mo Guang. This was a yin attribute spirit beast pouch that he had obtained from Concealing, and it had quite a large internal space. "Thank you, fellow Taoist Han. Please wait for me for a moment," Mo Guang said, then flew down into the ravine, quickly reaching the bottom. At this point, the ravine had already been transformed into an enormous crater that was riddled with holes, and only a tiny portion of the immense baleful qi that was originally in it remained. Mo Guang made a hand seal, and the spirit beast pouch immediately flew forward before opening up wide to release a burst of tremendous suction force. The remaining baleful qi at the bottom of the ravine instantly surged forth, injecting itself into the spirit beast pouch as a pillar of black qi. There wasn't much baleful qi left, so it didn't take long before all of it was sucked into the spirit beast pouch, which immediately swelled up, and the sound of sloshing liquid could be heard coming from inside it. The pouch was originally as light as a feather, but it had since increased in weight to around 150 kilograms, and even through the pouch, one could sense the incredibly dense baleful qi inside. An elated look appeared on Mo Guang's face as he stowed the spirit beast pouch away, then rose up into the sky before landing atop the flying carriage. Han Li took a glance at Mo Guang, but didn't say anything as he swept a sleeve through the air to summon Taoist Zai. "Please pilot the carriage along this route, Brother Zai," Han Li instructed as he handed the jade slip to Taoist Zai, who briefly examined the map that it contained before making a hand seal, and the flying carriage immediately shot forth as a streak of green light. Meanwhile, Han Li made his way over the side of the carriage and closed his eyes as he focused his attention on the immortal acupoints in his body. Out of his 107 opened immortal acupoints, most of them had been opened through the use of the profound baleful spirit arts, and all of those immortal acupoints had varying amounts of baleful chi within them. In particular, the immortal acupoints that had been opened while in the ravine were especially abundant in baleful chi. Hanli heaved an internal sigh upon seeing this. Even though he had drastically accelerated his own cultivation progress using the profound baleful spirit arts, it was most likely going to be exceedingly difficult for him to progress to the high zenith stage. After all, making a breakthrough to the high zenith stage required one to face the fifth decay, and all of this baleful chi was going to pose a massive problem. After a brief silence, he shook his head to rid himself of that train of thought, then closed his eyes to meditate and recover from the injuries that he had sustained during the earlier battle, somewhere in the true immortal realm. There was a silver palace hovering in midair within a certain golden space, and 4 or 5 figures were seated on a raised platform in the palace, seemingly discussing something. All of them were enshrouded in layers of spiritual light in different colors that concealed their facial features. Fellow Taoist Xiong, it's already been some time since you came to our immortal prison. How are you finding things here? A figure enshrouded in a layer of white light asked. The one that the question had been directed at was enshrouded in a layer of golden light, and his features were rather indistinct, but it seemed that he was a young man. Everything has been great, the young man replied with a smile. Your clan and mine have always been extremely close, and you just made a breakthrough to the late golden immortal stage. So if you need time to consolidate your cultivation base and wish to be exempt from carrying out any missions during this time, feel free to tell me, and I'll put in a word for you with our higher-ups, the man enshrouded in white light said. Thank you, fellow Taoist Xuan. My cultivation base has already been consolidated, so no special arrangements need to be made for me, the man enshrouded in golden light replied. As expected of a prodigious swordsman like yourself, fellow Taoist Xiong. Back when you first joined our immortal prison, you were able to slay mid-golden immortal stage reincarnation palace cultivators on your own, even though you were only at the early golden immortal stage at the time. With the rapid progress that you've since made in your cultivation base, I'm sure you're destined for great things. Another figure that was enshrouded in red light praised. You're far too kind, fellow Taoist Dai. I was very fortunate to have succeeded on that occasion. By the way, why isn't fellow Taoist Gongshu here? The figure enshrouded in golden light didn't want the topic of discussion to linger on himself any longer, so he changed the subject. One of Gongshu Tian's close clansmen perished in the northern glacial immortal region some years ago, and he's always wanted to go after the culprit, but our higher-ups have never given him permission to do so. Not long ago, our supervisory heavenly mirror detected that someone in the primordial land between the northern glacial immortal region and the Black Mountain immortal region seemed to have mastered the 4th level of the spirit refinement technique, and Gongshu Tian volunteered to go and investigate this matter, the figure enshrouded in red light replied. When did this happen? I haven't heard anything about this at all. It's not all that rare to find someone who's cultivated the first 3 levels of the spirit refinement technique, but someone who's mastered the 4th level has to be a core member of the Reincarnation Palace, the figure enshrouded in white light said in a grim voice. It happened not long ago. All of you were out on missions, and I was the only one here at the time, the figure enshrouded in red light explained. The primordial land is a very complex and sensitive place. Those primordial races are extremely resentful to us human cultivators, and even more so to cultivators of our heavenly court, so it most likely won't be easy to carry out an investigation there, the figure enshrouded in golden light said. Indeed, I presume Gongshu Tian will only be returning in futility. The figure enshrouded in red light said in an indifferent manner, while a contemplative look appeared in the eyes of the man enshrouded in golden light. Ali. Close to a year flew by in the blink of an eye. A streak of green light flashed through the sky above a certain barren region of the primordial land, vanishing into the distance in an instant. The streak of green light contained a green flying carriage, atop which sat Han Li, who was cultivating in silence, while a white cloud was hovering in front of him. Some time later, the golden light around his body slowly faded, and he opened his eyes. Following this period of cultivation, all of his injuries had been healed, and his spiritual sense had also made a full recovery. He cast his gaze toward the white cloud up ahead, and there were still no signs to suggest that Jin Tong was going to emerge from the golden ball anytime soon. Han Li's brows furrowed slightly upon seeing this, only to quickly unfurrow again. Having just devoured a late high zenith stage gold devouring Immortal, it made sense that Jin Tong would go into an extended slumber, and with the map provided by the patriarch of the heavenly fox race, the going had been quite smooth, so there was nothing for him to be concerned about. With that in mind, he turned his gaze to Mo Guang and Zio Bai, the latter of which was laying on the ground in a corner of the carriage, sleeping peacefully. As for Mo Guang, he was seated with his legs crossed with a layer of black light around him, holding that black spirit beast pouch in his arms, and wisps of baleful chi were constantly flowing out of the pouch and into his body. All of a sudden, a curious look appeared in Han Li's eyes at the sight of the black light around Mo Guang's body. Even though Mo Guang was currently using baleful chi to cultivate, the baleful chi fluctuations emanating from his body were very faint. Now that he had possessed the body of a powerful gray immortal, he was essentially no different from a normal gray immortal, so the baleful chi fluctuations emanating from his body should have been far more pronounced. Mo Guang seemed to have detected Han Li's scrutiny, and he paused in his cultivation and opened his eyes as he asked, "What's wrong, fellow Taoist Han?" Han Li took a glance at Mo Guang's eyes to discover that their pupils are far closer in color to the black pupils of a human rather than the gray ones of a gray immortal, and he asked, "How are your baleful chi fluctuations so faint? Have you used some type of secret technique to conceal your aura?" He had previously been pondering how he was going to conceal the immense baleful chi in Mo Guang's body, so that they could enter the Black Mountain Immortal region without attracting attention, but it seemed like this wasn't an issue. Mo Guang faltered slightly upon hearing this, then replied, "I haven't used any aura concealment secret techniques, fellow Taoist Han." As soon as his voice trailed off, he also detected the faint baleful chi fluctuations emanating from his own body, upon which a surprised look appeared on his face. "How could this be?" he murmured to himself, seemingly just as perplexed. "If you haven't done anything, then why do you appear no different from a normal person?" Han Li asked. "Now that you mention it, I don't feel any discomfort right now. That wasn't the case back when I first left that ravine. All of this seems to be attributable to a strange vortex that's currently in my danshan, and it took shape after you fed me that pill earlier," Mo Guang explained after taking a moment to inspect his own internal condition. "You're saying the origin void pill has a baleful chi concealment effect?" Han Li asked. "That's right. This vortex is able to conceal the aura of baleful chi. It's already been quite some time since I took the pill, but I never noticed that it had such an effect," Mo Guang replied. A contemplative look appeared in Han Li's eyes upon hearing this, while Mo Guang continued, "I can sense that the vortex formed by the power of the pill isn't permanent. Instead, it's dissipating bit by bit, and it'll probably only be able to last a few years, maybe around a dozen years at most." Han Li gave a thoughtful nod upon hearing this. Originally, he had thought that the purpose of the origin void pill was to awaken the soul of a gray immortal, but given what he was currently observing in Guang, it seemed that the true effect of the pill was to allow a gray immortal to acclimate themselves with the world's origin chi of the true immortal realm, while also suppressing the baleful chi in their body, thereby allowing them to awaken. If he and Guang intended to go to other immortal regions, this pill was going to be indispensable. Thankfully, he had obtained a large quantity of black marrow crystals, which was the main ingredient for refining origin void pills from the gray immortal storage tool. He was still missing the other ingredients, but they weren't all that rare or precious, so he should be able to purchase them from the Reincarnation Palace. With that in mind, Han Li summoned his Reincarnation Palace mask, then offered some rewards for those ingredients in the exchange section. After that, he pulled out a black marrow crystal and began to carefully inspect it. Inside the crystal were wisps of baleful chi that were pure to the extreme. These black marrow crystals were of a far superior quality to the ones that Worm 3 had given him. When it came to pill refinement, balance was very important, so if he were to use these crystals to refine origin void pills, then he would most likely have to adjust some steps of the process. Right as these thoughts were running through his mind, the baleful chi in his immortal acupoints suddenly stirred before erupting into a violent frenzy. Han Li shuddered as bursts of baleful chi that were as viscous as ink shot out of his body, then rapidly expanded outward, instantly filling the entire surrounding area within a radius of several hundred feet. At the same time, Han Li's eyes began to glow crimson, and it was as if he had transformed into a terrifying baleful deity. Everyone else on the flying carriage was instantly inundated by the baleful chi that had erupted out of his body, and they were naturally very startled. The flying carriage instantly drew to a halt, while Han Li abruptly rose to his feet as he warned, "All of you, stay here and don't follow me." After that, he flew out of the carriage and descended out of the sky. Down below was an undulating mountain range that was quite abundant with spiritual chi, and there was a massive canyon between two mountains that a river was slowly flowing through. There were many demon beasts residing in the mountain range, and they immediately fled for their lives upon sensing the terrifying aura that was currently emanating from Han Li's body. Han Li flew straight into the canyon before throwing an almighty punch, blasting a huge hole into the mountain face up ahead. He then flew into the makeshift cave that he had just created, then hurriedly set up a layer of restrictions around himself before sitting down with his legs crossed. A layer of bright golden light emerged to envelop his entire body, but black baleful chi was still surging out incessantly, and it was becoming denser and denser. "What's happening with Master?" Zoisia asked in a stunned manner as it looked down from the flying carriage. "It looks like fellow Taoist Han has been befallen by the fifth decay, the baleful decay," Guang said. Taoist Zai took a glance at Guang, then cast an incantation seal into the flying carriage, upon which it descended into the canyon, but drew to a halt still quite far away from the cave that Han Li was in. "Master has only just reached the pinnacle of the golden immortal stage. How could the baleful decay have befallen him so quickly?" Zoisia asked with a grim expression. Fellow Taoist Han was using baleful chi to force his own immortal acupoints open, so an enormous amount of baleful chi has accumulated in his body, thereby leading to the premature onset of baleful decay, Guang explained. "The baleful decay is the most difficult final hurdle that must be overcome in order to reach the high zenith stage. While I was with Gongshu Jiu, I saw countless cultivators fall at this hurdle, ultimately driven insane and killed by baleful chi backlash. Master has only just reached the pinnacle of the gold-devouring immortal, and he's completely unprepared." Ziobi's voice trailed off here, but the implications were very apparent. Both Guang and Taoist Zai remained silent as they observed the cave from afar. Inside the cave, Han Li was seated on the ground with his legs crossed, channeling his mantra axis scripture with all his might. His mantra-treasured axis had emerged, and bursts of pure time law powers were permeating throughout the rippling golden light around him, enveloping his entire body. Han Li was well aware that the fifth decay, baleful decay, was upon him. Due to the extreme measures that he had taken in the ravine, his cultivation base had progressed by leaps and bounds, so he most likely wasn't going to have to face the fourth decay that other golden immortal cultivators had to overcome. However, now that he was only one step away from the high zenith stage, the fifth decay was entirely unavoidable. The main contributing factors leading to the premature onset of the baleful decay seemed to be his cultivation of the profound baleful spirit arts and his mastery of the fourth level of the spirit refinement technique. Even though he was already mentally prepared for such an eventuality, he was still caught off guard by this sudden crisis. However, seeing as it was already happening, he had no choice but to face it head-on. In contrast with the acupoint decay that he had previously endured, the onset of baleful decay was extremely violent. He could sense the baleful chi that had previously laid dormant in his body gradually being stirred up into a frenzy, constantly attacking his consciousness. At the same time, some of the baleful chi had also triggered the dozens of immortal acupoints in his body that contained baleful chi, causing the baleful chi inside to seep outward. At this moment, Han Li could feel an unbridled sense of aggression constantly building in his body, and if it weren't for his exceptional willpower, he would have already been driven insane. A series of dark clouds had appeared in the sky above the cave that Han Li was in, and indistinct red shadows could be seen flashing through the clouds amid the sound of ghostly wailing. All of the plants within a radius of several hundred kilometers quickly wilted away, while the ground and the rocks slowly turned a lifeless gray color. This was a place that had been teeming with spiritual chi just a moment ago, yet it had been transformed into an infernal hell in the blink of an eye. Shortly thereafter, several black spots emerged over Han Li's body, and they were slowly expanding, while the pure spiritual sense in his consciousness was also gradually being contaminated by wisps of black light. The crimson light in his eyes glowed even brighter, and waves of intense bloodlust were rising up in his mind. All of a sudden, he let loose a low roar as he made a hand seal, and thick arcs of divine devilbane lightning emerged over his body amid a dull thunderclap. At the same time, several bursts of spiritual light released by immortal treasures had also shot out of his body. Normally, divine devilbane lightning was extremely effective at suppressing baleful chi, but in this instance, it was completely ineffective against the baleful chi surging out of Han Li's body. On the contrary, in the face of the corrosion from the tremendous baleful chi, the arcs of divine devilbane lightning were quickly snuffed out like frail candle flames. As for the immortal treasure spiritual light that Han Li had conjured up, they quickly faded away as well, and only the innate law powers that they contained were still posing some resistance against the baleful chi. However, the baleful chi was simply too formidable to be suppressed, and the law powers were quickly overcome as well. In the end, all that remained standing against the baleful chi was Han Li's time law powers. Han Li wasn't surprised to see this, and he continued to make a string of hand seals, while his mantra-treasured axis revolved rapidly behind him, releasing bursts of time law powers to keep the baleful chi at bay. Despite the ferocity at which the baleful chi was raging, Han Li's time law powers remained firm and resolute, much to his relief. While it was true that he hadn't made any preparations for this baleful decay, he had studied it quite extensively, so he was aware of just how violent and ferocious it was, completely unlike the slow and subtle onset of the other four decays. The majority of cultivators were unable to withstand the fierce eruption of baleful chi, causing them to fall insane not long after the commencement of their baleful decay, ultimately resulting in the detonation of their bodies and nascent souls. Thankfully, he had one of the three paramount laws to protect him. Otherwise, there was a chance that he could have already fallen at the first hurdle as well. The problem was that even though his time law powers were very formidable, the baleful chi that it was contending against wasn't from an extraneous source. Instead, it came directly from his own body and immortal acupoints. So despite the best efforts of his time law powers, some of the baleful chi was still slowly seeping into his body and mind. The black spots on his body were rapidly expanding, and at this point, they covered close to half of his entire body. At the same time, his eyes were glowing ever more crimson with bloodlust. Han Li was channeling his spirit refinement technique to suppress the violent thoughts that were arising in his heart, while sweeping a sleeve through the air to summon a white jade box, upon which was plastered a glowing silver talisman that was giving off hints of law power fluctuations. Han Li then quickly chanted an incantation, and the silver talisman abruptly erupted into flames before burning away into nothingness. The jade box sprang open on its own, and inside was a longan-sized silver pill that was giving off an incredible medicinal aroma. This was a high zenith pill. Han Li was feeling extremely thankful that he had obtained 3 high zenith pills from the infernal frost immortal manor. Otherwise, he would truly be at a complete loss for what to do. He swallowed the pill right away, then enveloped it with his immortal spiritual power to refine it within his own body. The silver light emanating from the pill instantly grew brighter, and it was also giving off bursts of scorching energy that struck Han Li's lower abdomen with a sense of burning pain, as if there were a silver fireball burning inside. Han Li took a deep breath to suppress the pain, while continuing to refine the high zenith pill, using his immortal spiritual power. The silver light emanating from the pill lit up even further, releasing streams of warmth that quickly flowed through Han Li's body, melting away all of the baleful chi that they encountered. However, at the same time, those streams of warmth were also constantly being whittled down. The crimson light glowing in Han Li's eyes instantly stopped becoming brighter, then slowly began to dim, while the black spots on his body also began to recede, much to his elation. He continued to make a string of hand seals, using the power of the high zenith pill to counteract the baleful chi within his body, and a layer of silver light quickly appeared around him, intertwining with the existing layer of golden light. A peculiar medicinal aroma wafted out of the silver light, and it could be clearly smelled by Guang and the others, even though they were situated very far away. Masters beginning to refine the baleful chi. Could it be that he already made preparations for the baleful decay in advance? Zoisia exclaimed in an ecstatic voice. A hint of surprise appeared on Guang's face, but he didn't say anything. Meanwhile, Taoist Zai began to pilot the flying carriage closer to the cave, before having it draw to a halt again. With no response coming from either Guang or Taoist Zai, Zoisia laid down onto the carriage again. Close to a year passed by in the blink of an eye. Most of the baleful chi in Han Li's body had been expelled, while only some tiny black spots remained on his body, and the baleful chi in his consciousness had also been virtually completely eradicated. However, the high zenith pill that he had devoured had also been completely refined. At this point, the residual baleful chi in Han Li's body had already been forced into a corner, but as the streams of warmth released by the high zenith pill slowly faded, the baleful chi immediately began to stir once again. Han Li was quite alarmed to see this, and he immediately flipped a hand over to summon another white jade box, which contained a second high zenith pill that he swallowed without any hesitation. As soon as the pill was devoured, the more streams of warmth instantly began to flow through his body again, surging toward the remaining baleful chi. Before long, all of the remaining baleful chi had been eradicated, and the black spots on Han Li's body vanished. His skin had become as translucent as jade, to the point that his bones could be made out through his skin and flesh. However, his expression remained grim. Even though the baleful chi in his body had been eradicated, he knew that the baleful decay hadn't been completely overcome yet. Out of his 107 opened immortal acupoints, 71 of them had been forced open using baleful chi. While the baleful chi within his body had been eradicated by the high zenith pills, the baleful chi in his immortal acupoints still remained, much to his concern and dismay. Just as he had anticipated, the baleful chi in his immortal acupoints were posing as a major obstacle to his progression to the high zenith stage. Having said that, even though the baleful chi in his immortal acupoints hadn't been cleansed, most of the medicinal power from the second high zenith pill was still active in his body, and he also had a third, even more potent high zenith pill, and that should be more than enough to eradicate the baleful chi in his immortal acupoints. With that in mind, Han Li took a deep breath, then directed the streams of warmth in his body toward his immortal acupoints. The baleful chi in his immortal acupoints was instantly stirred up by the streams of warmth, but unlike the baleful chi from before, this baleful chi showed no signs of receding, and it was as if they had taken root in the immortal acupoints. Han Li's heart sank slightly upon seeing this, and he adopted a different approach, enveloping the baleful chi in the medicinal power of the high zenith pill before gnashing away at it. Another few months flew by in a flash, and at this point, Han Li was no longer looking as composed and unconcerned as before. Through these past few months of toil, he had managed to make the baleful chi in his immortal acupoints slightly dimmer than before, but that was all that he had to show for his efforts. Not a single one of his 71 immortal acupoints had been completely cleansed of baleful chi. A cold look flashed through Han Li's eyes as he clenched his fists tightly, and right at this moment, a faint thud rang out from within his body as the second high zenith pill was finally completely refined. As a result, the streams of warmth instantly receded out of his immortal acupoints, and the baleful chi inside immediately lit up once again, threatening to make a resurgence after being repressed for so long. The immortal spiritual power within Han Li's body was instantly sucked into these immortal acupoints, and the world's origin chi outside his body also began to surge into them. A strange bubbling sound rang out from within these immortal acupoints, and wisps of baleful chi emerged from within them, spreading throughout Han Li's body again. These wisps of baleful chi were incredibly dark, seemingly able to devour all light, and they were even more formidable than the baleful chi that had previously been in Han Li's body. Furthermore, some of these wisps of baleful chi were spreading through the other immortal acupoints that had no baleful chi within them. Han Li was naturally very alarmed to see this, and he hurriedly channeled his time law powers to oppose the baleful chi. However, this eruption of baleful chi was even more ferocious than before, and even Han Li's time law powers were struggling to withstand it. Han Li immediately made a hand seal to inject more immortal spiritual power into his mantra axis scripture, and at the same time, he summoned a white jade box, then opened it to reveal a high zenith pill sitting inside. In contrast with the previous two high zenith pills, this one had a series of silver lines on its surface that came together to form the design of a three-legged golden crow, and it was also giving off a far more formidable aura than the other two high zenith pills. Han Li carefully plucked the high zenith pill out of the box, but hesitated right as he was about to eat it. The onset of baleful decay had been far more violent than he anticipated, and even though this high zenith pill was of a far superior caliber than the previous two, he still wasn't confident in its ability to eradicate the baleful chi in his immortal acupoints. Given what had happened with the previous two pills, the chances of failure were quite high. The average late golden immortal cultivator would inevitably have to kill and accumulate baleful chi in their body during their cultivation. But for them, just a single normal high zenith pill should be enough to eradicate all of their built-up baleful chi. In contrast, Han Li had so much baleful chi in his body that he was essentially half a gray immortal. Unless he could find an effective solution to the baleful chi in his immortal acupoints and restore himself to his normal state, taking more high zenith pills most likely wasn't going to help him. All of a sudden, a thought occurred to him, and he set down the high zenith pill in his hand before stowing it away, then called out through voice transmission. At this moment, Mo Guang and the others were all seated with their legs crossed in an obscure valley not far away from the cave that Han Li was in. The green flying carriage was hovering above a corner of the valley, and Jin Tong was still displaying no signs of awakening. All of a sudden, Mo Guang's eyes sprang open as he rose to his feet. Bai immediately sprang up onto its haunches, standing in Mo Guang's path with a wary look on its face as it asked, "What are you doing?" "Your master has asked me to go to him," Mo Guang explained, then set off as a streak of black light, arriving in front of the cave that Han Li was in shortly thereafter. The restrictions in the cave opened up on their own to create a passageway, and as soon as Mo Guang stepped into the cave, he was immediately struck by a wave of incredibly dense baleful chi. His expression remained unchanged as he continued onward, and it didn't take long before he spotted an indistinct seated figure that was entirely enshrouded in black chi and golden light. "Fellow Taoist Mo Guang, I need your help," Han Li said while channeling his time law powers with all his might, and speaking seemed to be quite a difficult task for him. "I know what you need me to do. This will actually be quite beneficial for me," Mo Guang replied with a nod, then sat down with his legs crossed beside Han Li, who didn't waste any more time and immediately sprang into action. With a sweep of his sleeve, hundreds of black formation flags shot out in unison before landing all around the cave. He then made a rapid string of hand seals, and black light flashed erratically over the formation flags as a series of black formation patterns quickly emerged to form a formation that was several dozen feet in size. After that, Han Li began to chant an incantation, then opened his mouth to release a ball of blood essence into the formation. The black formation immediately lit up, and several bursts of black light that were roughly the same thickness as adult human arms appeared around him, then pierced into his body. The churning baleful chi within Han Li's body immediately stiffened, then flowed into the formation along these bursts of black light. Every single line of the formation was glowing with faint black light, and dense baleful chi was rapidly flowing over those lines. In the span of just a few seconds, the entire formation was filled with baleful chi. Right at this moment, the formation patterns around Mo Guang lit up as well, and several bursts of black light emerged before piercing into his body. The baleful chi in the formation seemed to have found an outlet, and all of it surged into Mo Guang's body, causing him to shudder slightly. But an elated look then appeared on his face as he closed his eyes to absorb the incoming baleful chi. Before long, roughly 30% of the baleful chi in Han Li's body had been transferred into Mo Guang's body through the formation. This entire time, Mo Guang's eyes remained tightly shut as he focused on refining the influx of baleful chi, while the strain on Han Li's face was steadily easing. All of a sudden, he began to chant another incantation, then made a grabbing motion with his right hand, and a golden vial slowly took shape in his grasp. There were 6 time Tao runes on the surface of the vial, and it was none other than his clear time vial. Inside the vial was a drop of semi-transparent golden liquid that was shimmering with faint spiritual light, and aside from the difference in coloration, It was very similar in appearance to the green spirit liquid produced by the heaven-controlling vial. It wasn't entirely accurate to say that Han Li hadn't made any preparations for the baleful decay. During these past years, whenever he had some free time, he would release his clear time vial so that it could absorb the light of the sun and the moon to manifest time water droplets. After so many years of persistence, he had finally managed to produce a single droplet. Han Li pointed a finger at the clear time vial, and a beam of golden light immediately shot out of his fingertip before vanishing into the vial. The time Dao runes on the vial instantly began to glow brightly, while a series of golden runes emerged within it, and the time water droplet also slowly rose up from the bottom of the vial. All of the nearby golden runes converged toward the time water droplet before fusing into it, and the golden spiritual light emanating from the droplet instantly brightened significantly. At the same time, all of the nearby world's origin chi was also stirred up into a frenzy, and countless balls of five-colored light appeared in the surrounding area before surging into the time water droplet as well. Han Li continued to cycle through a string of hand seals, releasing one beam of golden light into the clear time vial after another, and the time water droplet glowed brighter and brighter while also gradually transitioning into a solid state before slowly spreading outward. 3 days flew by in a flash, and at this point, the time water droplet inside the clear water vial had transformed into a translucent golden thread around the same length as a human finger. Formidable time, law power fluctuations were emanating from the translucent golden thread, yet it was different from the time, law power fluctuations released by Han Li's mantra treasured axis. At this point, most of Han Li's body had turned black, and his eyes were glowing a crimson color, but he was still able to retain his own sanity. All of a sudden, an elated look appeared in his eyes, and he immediately made a hand seal, upon which the translucent golden thread flew out of the clear time vial before vanishing into his chest. Immediately thereafter, a vast expanse of golden spiritual light erupted out of his body, and a series of golden halos appeared before spreading outward. Bursts of time, law powers were surging throughout the golden light, causing the nearby space to become rather blurry and indistinct, and Han Li's body was also becoming less and less visible. At the same time, the black formation abruptly ceased to function, and Guang opened his eyes before rising to his feet before casting his gaze toward Han Li. At this moment, his aura had become slightly more formidable than before. The golden light around Han Li continued to flash erratically for about 15 minutes before finally fading away, upon which it was revealed that both his body and his eyes had returned to their original color, and it was as if the baleful decay had been nothing more than a distant dream. "Congratulations, fellow Taoist Han," Guang said. "Thank you for your help, fellow Taoist Guang, but I'm afraid this is only a temporary fix," Han Li replied with a faint smile. "There's no need to thank me, fellow Taoist Han. I'm just glad I could help," Guang said with a shake of his head. Han Li withdrew his gaze from Guang, then took a deep breath before inspecting his own internal condition, upon which a wry smile appeared on his face. The translucent golden thread produced by the clear time vial was a thread of time, and it was able to delay the onset of the 5 decays, so it had temporarily suppressed his baleful decay. This was the first time that he was using a thread of time, so he didn't know how long it could delay the onset of his baleful decay for, but he felt like it should be able to delay his baleful decay for at least a few centuries. After taking a moment to compose himself, Han Li swept a sleeve through the air to recover all of the formation tools in the surrounding cave before flying out into the valley as a streak of azure light, followed closely by Guang. An ecstatic look immediately appeared on Zoisia Bai's face at the sight of Han Li, but the elation on its face then gradually faded as it caught sight of Han Li's rather grim expression. Meanwhile, Taoist Zai rose to its feet, but merely cupped its fist in a salute toward Han Li without saying anything. Han Li gave Taoist Zai a nod, then put on a reassuring smile as he patted Zio Bai on the head. After that, he turned his gaze to the white cloud before asking, "Has Jin Tong still not shown any signs of waking up?" "Not at all, master. Will she be all right?" Zio Bai asked with a slightly concerned expression. "Don't worry, she'll be fine," Han Li replied. Zio Bai was quite relieved to hear this, and it asked, "Where do we go from here, master?" Han Li took a glance at his surroundings, then turned to Taoist Zai as he said, "We've already wasted enough time, so let's keep going, brother Zai." Taoist Zai nodded in response, then flew onto the green flying carriage before releasing an incantation seal, and the carriage immediately sped away as a streak of green light. At the center of the carriage, Han Li was seated with his legs crossed, assessing his own internal condition. Even though his baleful decay had already been delayed by time, law powers imbued within the thread of time, the baleful chi in his body still hadn't receded at all, and 3 of his originally uncontaminated immortal acupoints had also been infiltrated by baleful chi. Han Li's heart sank slightly upon seeing this, but a thought then suddenly occurred to him, and he opened his eyes before flicking a finger through the air, conjuring up a mirror of water in front of himself. Through his reflection in the mirror, Han Li could see bursts of gray light occasionally flashing through his eyes, turning his pupils a murky gray color, and it seemed that the frequency at which his pupils were turning gray had increased from before. With a sweep of his sleeve, Han Li swept away the mirror as a contemplative look appeared on his face. Given what he currently knew, it appeared that the northern glacial immortal region was only a small and rather secluded immortal region in the true immortal realm, one that had barely any high zenith cultivators. Hence, even though he had been trying to gather information on the 5 decays, his efforts had largely proven to be futile. On top of that, his current situation was rather different from the normal 5th decay that one could expect to experience, and his only option at this point was to try and find a solution after he reached the Black Mountain immortal region. All of a sudden, another thought occurred to Han Li, and he flipped a hand over to produce his Dragon 5 Reincarnation Palace mask before putting it on. Sure enough, there had already been quite a few responses to the requests that he had made for Origin Void pill refinement ingredients. Close to an hour later, as Han Li stowed away the mask again, a small pile of these ingredients had already appeared beside him. He instructed Taoist Zai and the others to keep a close eye on Jin Tong, then quickly scoured the surrounding area to ensure that nothing was amiss before sweeping a sleeve through the air to summon his silver pill cauldron. With another sweep of his sleeve, his flame of essence was released, and it landed beneath the cauldron in its miniature humanoid form. A burst of terrifying heat instantly erupted out of the fiery figure's body, and it seemed to have become even more powerful than before. The fiery figure yelled something unintelligible up at Han Li in an excited voice, then sat down before making a hand seal, and the scorching white flames all over its body instantly surged forth as 12 uniform bursts that evenly coated the underside of the cauldron. Before long, the interior of the cauldron had become extremely hot. Thanks to the pill refinement experience that he had accrued back in the soul-stirring winds, Han Li was extremely familiar with the process of refining Origin Void pills. The only problem was that he would have to make some adjustments for balancing purposes, as the black marrow crystals that he was using were of a far superior quality to before. However, this was not a major problem for him, given that he had the power of time laws on his side. After taking a deep breath to compose himself, Han Li picked up one of the ingredients before tossing it into the cauldron to commence the pill refinement process. 7 or 8 years flew by in a flash. The green flying carriage continued to race over the boundless primordial land, speeding over all types of different terrains. The route that had been marked out on the map provided by the patriarch of the heavenly fox race required them to go on a far longer journey than if they were to cross the primordial land in a straight line, but it did prove to be a very safe route. Occasionally, some primordial beasts would get in their way, but none of them stood a chance against Guang, Taoist Zai, and Xiao Bai. All the while, Han Li remained seated within a light barrier, casting a string of incantation seals into the silver cauldron in front of him. Right at this moment, a burst of silver light flashed over the cauldron, and the lid flew off on its own to reveal a glistening black origin void pill inside. A faint smile appeared on Han Li's face upon seeing this, and he carefully stowed the pill away, then stowed the silver cauldron and the flame of essence away as well. Up to this point, he had exhausted all of the ingredients that he had purchased, and with those ingredients, he had managed to refine around 24 origin void pills. He picked up one of the pills, then scrutinized it for a moment before swallowing it. He had to take one of the pills to ensure that it was indeed what he needed. As soon as the origin void pill entered his stomach, it immediately began to melt, turning into a burst of cold power that flowed through his body. Nothing of particular interest took place. The power of the pill merely resonated somewhat with the baleful chi in his body, but it did nothing aside from that. However, Han Li knew that the pill took some time to truly take effect, so he wasn't overly concerned, and he closed his eyes to meditate while waiting for the pill to do its work. Close to a year passed by. All of a sudden, the burst of cold power formed by the origin void pill drew to a halt near Han Li's lower abdomen, where it transformed into a strange vortex that was constantly revolving while forming a special connection with the baleful chi in his immortal acupoints. The baleful chi in his body gradually began to fall dormant, and even the baleful chi in his immortal acupoints had become a lot more sluggish. Han Li raised an eyebrow as he flicked a finger through the air to conjure up a mirror of water, and through his reflection, he could see that the gray light in his eyes had already completely faded, restoring his pupils to close to their original color. This was naturally quite a relief. If his pupils were to occasionally turn gray once he entered the Black Mountain Immortal region, then it most likely wouldn't be long before he became a target of the heavenly court. Even though he could take certain measures to disguise the abnormal coloration of his eyes, there was no guarantee that he wouldn't be exposed. Now that his baleful chi had entered a dormant state and his pupils had largely returned to normal, his chances of being exposed were significantly decreased. This supply of origin void pills should be enough to last him and Guang quite some time in the Black Mountain Immortal region, but as a safety precaution, Han Li released a few more missions for the acquisition of origin void pill ingredients in the Transient Guild. Right at this moment, a dull thud suddenly rang out. Han Li swept a sleeve through the air to remove the surrounding restrictions, and a hint of elation immediately appeared on his face as he identified the source of the sound. At this moment, the golden ball within the cloud at the end of the flying carriage was glowing radiantly, while the cloud had been stirred up into a frenzy. An enormous aura was surging out of the golden ball in all directions, and Xiao Bai was roused from its slumber as it hurriedly rose to its haunches. Guang was seated with his legs crossed on the other side of the flying carriage, and he only opened his mouth to take a glance in the golden ball's direction before closing his eyes again. "Brother Zai, find a place to stop the carriage," Han Li instructed. Taoist Zai did as it was told, casting an incantation seal into the flying carriage, upon which it immediately swooped down before drawing to a halt in a misty valley. All the while, the golden light radiating from the golden ball was becoming brighter and brighter, and at this point, It was glowing as radiantly as the sun. Hanli cast an incantation seal to withdraw the white flag, and almost immediately thereafter, a series of cracks appeared on the surface of the golden ball, then quickly spread before a massive hole was blasted into its surface, following which a slender figure emerged from within. It was a young girl who appeared to be in her teens, and she had shoulder-length golden hair and a set of gorgeous facial features. With her emergence, the golden ball exploded into a vast expanse of golden powder that rained down into the valley below. The young girl began to make her way toward Han Li and the others, and even though golden powder was falling all around her, none of it was able to land on her at all. "You're Jin Tong, right?" Han Li asked as his brows furrowed slightly. Both this young girl's appearance and aura were completely different from Jin Tong's, and the only similarity that they shared was the color of their hair. This made Han Li feel as if he were looking at someone completely alien to him, and Xiao Bai was also staring at the girl with a dumbstruck expression at a loss for what to do. The girl gave Han Li a nod, then stretched lazily as she said, "Even now, when I look back on what happened over these past years, it still feels like a dream." Her voice had also changed drastically, and it was extremely pleasing to the ears, but was completely devoid of emotion. Han Li's brows remained furrowed as he scrutinized Jin Tong with his bright-sight spirit eyes, and some skepticism still remained on his face. "Why are you looking at me like that, uncle? If I'm not Jin Tong, then who am I? The gold-devouring immortal that was chasing after us. I've gained a lot of new memories after devouring that thing, but I'm still the same Jin Tong from before," Jin Tong said as a mischievous smile appeared on her face, only to fade immediately thereafter. "Have you recalled something?" Han Li asked as his brows finally unfurrowed. Through their spiritual connection, he could tell beyond a reasonable doubt that this was indeed Jin Tong. Jin Tong was silent for a moment, then suddenly extended a curtsy toward Han Li as she said, "Thank you for looking after me for so long, uncle. Without you, I would have never been able to make it to this point." "Why are you suddenly saying this?" Han Li asked with a surprised expression. "I want to go out on my own and search for other gold-devouring immortals," Jin Tong replied. "Have you already found some other gold-devouring immortals?" Han Li asked. "No, but I have a vague sense of where they are," Jin Tong replied. "While it's true that you've become significantly more powerful than before, I still don't think it's safe for you to go off on your own," Han Li said. "Master's right, the true immortal realm is a really dangerous place. Why don't you stay with Master? You'll always have stuff to eat, and with your combined powers, even if you encounter another late-high zenith stage gold-devouring immortal, you'll be able to take it down together," Xiao Bai said. Jin Tong was completely unmoved, and she shook her head as she said, "Searching for other gold-devouring immortals is my destiny. You also have things that you need to do as well, don't you, uncle?" Han Li fell silent upon hearing this. Xiao Bai opened its mouth to say something, but decided against it after seeing the determined look on Jin Tong's face. After a brief silence, Han Li asked, "Have you made up your mind?" Jin Tong nodded in response. "In that case, I won't try to stop you. As the saying goes, all unions must conclude with separation someday," Han Li sighed. Jin Tong extended another curtsy toward Han Li, then turned to depart, but Han Li called out to stop her before tossing an intricate green jade bracelet at her. Jin Tong reflexively caught the bracelet and Han Li explained, "There's a map of the primordial land inside, as well as some spirit treasures and immortal origin stones, which should be enough to last you a while. Aside from that, there are also a few transient guild masks in there. If you need anything, feel free to reach out to me." When it came to Jin Tong, his feelings were very mixed. To him, she was like an intimate comrade, but also like a daughter that he had raised from birth. A complex look flashed through Jin Tong's eyes at the sight of the bracelet, but she didn't refuse it, and she silently put it on her left wrist. "I'll go with you, Jin Tong," Zoisia suddenly said before springing over to her side, much to Jin Tong's surprise. "You said that you were making me your lackey, so you can't just leave me behind," Zoisia said as it rubbed its head against the back of Jin Tong's hand. "Take Zoisia with you. If you run into any other gold-devouring immortals more powerful than yourself, you'll at least be able to hide in Zoisia's stomach for some time," Han Li said. "All right, I'll take you with me, but you better hurry up and get stronger. If you dare to get in my way, then I'll leave you behind without a second thought," Jin Tong threatened as she patted Zoisia on the head. Zoisia immediately nodded in response with an ecstatic expression. "By the way, I once read in a scripture that a gold-devouring immortal of unknown power seemed to have appeared some time ago in the Golden Origin Immortal region. I don't know if it's still there, but you can go to try your luck there if you can't find any other leads," Han Li said. "I see. Thank you, uncle. Take care," Jin Tong replied with a nod, then took one final glance at Han Li before speeding away with Zoisia as a streak of golden light, instantly vanishing into the distance. Han Li looked on in the direction that Jin Tong had departed in for some time before withdrawing his gaze, following which he instructed in a calm manner, "Let's continue." Shortly thereafter, a streak of green light rose up from the ground before speeding away into the distance. Moments later, a burst of spatial fluctuations emerged nearby, and Jin Tong and Zoisia re-emerged onto the scene. "Uncle, I would love to stay with you for longer, but what I'm going to be facing from here onward is far more perilous than what you can imagine. We only just barely survived this ordeal by the skin of our teeth. I really don't want to be a burden to you anymore," Jin Tong murmured to herself in a forlorn voice. "Surely there was no need to do this," Zoisia said in a timid voice. "Even though I've only been with Master for a short time, my instincts as a primordial true spirit tell me that he's a good person, and he definitely doesn't mind having you around as a burden." "So you're saying I really am a burden to him?" Jin Tong asked as she turned to Zoisia with a hostile expression. "And no, what I meant to say is that you're so wise and powerful, you could easily explore this world on your own," Zoisia hurriedly amended. "Even though I've managed to recover some of my memories, some things are still quite unclear to me. However, I get a vague sense that I don't just seem to be an ordinary spirit insect. Zoisia, you've decided to follow me, so I'll be sure to treat you well. As long as you help me find what's rightfully mine, you can eat anything you want from here onward," Jin Tong said. "Rest assured, I'll follow your every command and eat anything that you tell me to," Zoisia declared with a serious expression. "You've become just as much of an ass-kisser as Guang," Jin Tong scoffed in a disdainful voice, then flew away into the distance. "Let's go. According to this map, the Golden Origin Immortal region is very far away." "Wait for me," Zoisia hurriedly called out as it set off in pursuit. In the northern region of the Black Mountain Immortal region, there was a peaceful valley that was filled with lush, green bamboo trees, and a clear stream was flowing through the center of the valley. The bamboo forest on either bank of the creek was filled with mist, and the clear and pleasant call of an oriole could occasionally be heard. Deep in the forest, wild deer with white pelts that carried cherry blossom patterns could be seen traversing through the undergrowth. The midsection of the stream was situated in the steepest and most precarious part of the valley, with jagged rocks on either bank. From there, the stream flowed down a long and winding curve, then pooled into a deep green pond. To the left of the pond was a huge stone platform, atop which sat an azure-robed middle-aged man with his legs crossed, strumming a dark purple guqin. The man had a set of handsome facial features and a head of long hair that spilled down his back. His slim and fair fingers were gently strumming over the strings of the guqin, producing wonderful music to complement the sound of the flowing stream. Seated across from the azure-robed man was an elderly man with a head of black hair and another elderly man with a head of white hair, playing a game of Go. The black-haired elderly man's clothes were pristine and completely devoid of creases, while his black hair was also immaculately groomed, giving him a very clean and sharp appearance, much like a drawn sword. In contrast, the white-haired elderly man seated across from him was far less meticulous in maintaining her appearance. He was wearing a white robe with some embroidered flame designs littered haphazardly over it, and his hair was completely wild and disheveled as he sat in a bleary-eyed fashion. The black-haired elderly man had the white stones, and he played each move swiftly and forcefully, ensuring that there was an audible clack with each stone that he placed down. In contrast, the white-haired elderly man was far slower to make his moves, and he also placed his stones down much more softly and quietly. The black-haired elderly man seemed to be accustomed to this, and he didn't urge his opponent to play faster, merely closing his eyes after making each move to calculate how the position could unfold. A brown-robed elderly man was watching the game, and he chugged down a mouthful of wine, then complained, "As usual, you're unbearably slow, you old fart. If I didn't know any better, I'd suspect you to be an old turtle that attained a human form through cultivation. If you don't have anything nice to say, then keep your mouth shut. Fellow Taoist Duan hasn't even said anything. Why are you chirping, you old drunkard? Go drink your horse piss." The white-haired elderly man scoffed, but it was clear that he wasn't actually enraged. "How long did that game between you and Lu Guanzi from the Sunny Valley drag on for? 30 years. In the end, you stalled for so long that he couldn't bear it anymore and resigned." Before he had a chance to finish, the white-haired elderly man loudly interjected, "That's because Lu Guanzi heard that an extremely beautiful female true immortal had come from the Rainbow Phoenix Valley, and he couldn't resist the urge to go and take a look. Otherwise, that game would have gone on for at least 20 more years. Extremely beautiful, my arse. I went to go see her as well, and at the very most, she's only above average. Only someone with terrible taste like Lu Guanzi would be into someone like that." The brown-robed elderly man scoffed with a shake of his head. The white-haired elderly man massaged his own chin as he stared intently at the Go board. It seemed that he had found himself in a difficult position, and he was ignoring the brown-robed elderly man to focus on the game. "Talking to the three of you is no fun at all. I wonder what fellow Taoist Li is up to. He hasn't been around for a while." The brown-robed elderly man mused as he turned to take a glance at the entrance of the valley. The azure-robed man stopped strumming his gyukin upon hearing this, then turned to the brown-robed elderly man as he said, "I heard that fellow Taoist Li has been refining a batch of 5 stone pills of late. I sent a message to him some days ago, but I've received no response, so I presume he's still in seclusion." As soon as his voice trailed off, an azure-robed young man emerged from deep within the bamboo forest, then began to approach the stone platform where the 4 men were gathered. The man was none other than Han Li, who was wearing a disguise adopted using his Reincarnation palace mask, and it had already been over 400 years since he parted ways with Jin Tong and Zio Bai in the primordial land. At this point, Han Li had been living in this floating cloud valley for close to 200 years. The brown-robed man immediately rose to his feet at the sight of Han Li and yelled, "You're finally here, fellow Taoist Li. Come and have a drink with me." The 2 elderly men seated at the Go table also returned their stone to their respective holders, then rose to their feet as well. As for the gyukin-strumming young man, he remained seated, but he had also turned to Han Li with a friendly smile. A faint smile appeared on Han Li's face, and he rose up into the air, then descended onto the giant stone platform. "Fellow Taoist Hot Flame, fellow Taoist Jingyang, fellow Taoist Duan, fellow Taoist Ziki, my apologies for my tardiness, Han Li said with a smile as he cupped his fist in a salute toward the 4 men present. Don't worry about it. You're a pill refinement master, so your priority should be pill refinement. Only useless old men like us who have nothing to do can waste our time pursuing such trivial hobbies, the white-robed elderly man chuckled. His name was Immortal Lord Hot Flame, and he was the grand elder of a medium-sized sect in the Black Mountain Immortal region. He was a very lazy man who didn't want to have to attend to any official sect duties, so he had dumped all of his responsibilities onto a junior martial brother of his and came to the floating cloud valley to live a life of leisure. Despite his disheveled appearance, he actually possessed the highest cultivation base of the 4 men at the late golden immortal stage. The black-haired elderly man who had been playing Go with Immortal Lord Hot Flame was named Duan Yuzai, and he was also from the Black Mountain Immortal region. As for the Gukin-strumming man and the brown-robed man, they were Yu Ziki and Taoist Master Jingyang, respectively. Both of them had traveled to the Black Mountain Immortal region from other immortal regions, and one of them was at the late True Immortal stage, while the other was at the late Golden Immortal stage. Despite the vast cultivation-based disparity between them, they shared the closest bond out of the 4 men present. Aside from Han Li and these 4 men, there were many more cultivators residing in the 72 valleys and 36 ravines of the floating Cloud Mountain range. Most of them were itinerant cultivators or traveling immortals who had no chance of making any further progress in their cultivation, so they settled down here to live out peaceful and leisurely lives instead of continuing to toil away in the world of cultivation. Over time, the floating Cloud Mountain range gained a new name, which was Relaxation Mountain. The valley that Han Li and these 4 men resided in was originally called the Cloud Deer Valley, but it had since been renamed to the Leisure Valley. There was a set of rules that had to be followed in the mountain range, which prohibited residents from prying into the past of other residents, forbade conflicts and battles from taking place in the mountain range, and also forbade any external powers from disrupting the order in the area. According to Immortal Lord Hot Flame, these rules had been established by an itinerant cultivator who had once resided in the mountain range. Initially, no one paid any heed to these rules, but the cultivator was extremely brutal in enforcing those rules, and he had the power to match, killing everyone who dared to break his rules. As a result, everyone was forced to follow those rules. Apparently, that cultivator held an important post in the heavenly court, and following their departure, those rules gradually became set in stone on Relaxation Mountain, even in their absence. Relaxing and pursuing trivial hobbies is the norm here on Relaxation Mountain, so I'm the odd one out here. My constant seclusion and pill refinement really brings shame to the good name of this place, Han Li said with a wry smile. Thank heavens you're a pill refinement master. If it wasn't for that golden soul pill that you provided in such a timely and generous fashion, I would have surely perished while attempting my golden immortal stage breakthrough, Duan Yuzai said with a serious expression. Please don't mention this every time you see me, fellow Taoist Duan. I just so happen to have a spare golden soul pill on hand, and after that, you were the one who introduced me to this place, so you've repaid me for the favor, Han Li said with a wry smile. You saved my life. How could I possibly ever repay you? Duan Yuzai protested as a hint of guilt flashed through his eyes. Han Li was already accustomed to Duan Yuzai's serious personality, so he knew that there was no point in dwelling on this subject any further. Hence, he looked around momentarily, then changed the subject as he asked, "Where's Celestial Maiden Mo? Is she late as well?" "You know what Mo Wuxu's like. She's gone to meditate on the Light Breeze Cliff," Yu Ziki scoffed. "Meditate my arse. All she does is stare off into space for decades, even centuries at a time. There are a lot of strange people gathered in this mountain range, but she surely ranks near the top, Taoist Master Jingyang scoffed with a hint of disdain in his voice. Even if pursuing the great Tao is bound to be a futile endeavor, she still shouldn't just waste her life like this. Instead, why not enjoy some mortal pleasures in the time that we have left? Yu Ziki sighed in a slightly wistful manner. Hanli knew that Yu Ziki had been harboring romantic feelings for Mo Wuxu for quite some time, and he jibed. Some mortal pleasures are impossible to enjoy alone, so you have to give her a hand. Yu Ziki's smile remained unchanged, but he could only heave an internal sigh. Mo Wuxu was an early golden immortal cultivator, while he was only at the late true immortal stage. On top of that, with his limited aptitude, there was no hope for him to ever reach the golden immortal stage, and with the 5 decays constantly looming, he simply couldn't bring himself to ask her to be his Tao partner. Right at this moment, Taoist Master Jingyang approached Han Li with a fawning smile as he asked, "By the way, I hear that you've recently been refining a batch of 5 stone pills, fellow Taoist Li. Can you sell one to me?" "Sell? I can't accept any money from you, fellow Taoist Jingyang," Han Li said with a shake of his head. Taoist Master Jingyang's smile instantly widened even further upon hearing this, but his smile then immediately stiffened once he heard what Han Li had to say next. "There's no need for you to buy a 5-stone pill from me. Just give me a flagon of your green fermented wine in exchange." Green fermented wine was a very special type of wine that Taoist Master Jingyang had learned to brew from an ancient scripture. It incorporated the essence of over 100 different precious spirit plants, and it was no less precious than a 5-stone pill. Everyone was very amused by the sight of the pained look on Taoist Master Jingyang's face, at the thought of having to part with a flagon of his precious wine. Ultimately, Taoist Master Jingyang was unwilling to give up a flagon of his wine, and he grumbled to himself, "I don't need any pills, wine tastes much better anyway." An amused smile appeared on Han Li's face upon seeing this, and he suddenly swept a sleeve through the air to release 4 streaks of light, each of which flew toward one of the 4 men on the stone platform. The 4 men hurriedly caught the streaks of light, to discover that each of them contained a white jade vial. "What's this, fellow Taoist Li?" Immortal Lord Hot Flame asked. "There's 1 5-stone pill for each of you in those vials, but I'm not giving out any more than that," Han Li said. The 4 men were very surprised to hear this. 5-stone pills were golden immortal stage pills that were very effective both for cultivation base consolidation and cultivation advancement, so it was definitely not something to be given out casually like this. "To tell you the truth, I'm giving all of you these pills because I have something to request of you," Han Li said. "I'm sure all of you have already noticed the abnormal abundance of baleful qi in my body. Right now, I'm enduring the baleful decay." A hint of enlightenment appeared on the faces of the 4 men upon hearing this. They all knew that the 5 decays were unavoidable, and that this was perhaps going to be a hurdle that would stump them as well, so they were very sympathetic to Han Li's situation. "A while ago, I obtained a recipe for a pill that can temporarily ward off baleful qi backlash, but I've been struggling to find an ingredient for the pill known as the profound Zoisia crystal, and I'm hoping that all of you can help me search for it," Han Li continued. The recipe that he was speaking of was for a pill by the name of the baleful quelling pill, and it was an obscure pill recipe that he had obtained from the Transient Guild. As opposed to temporarily warding off the baleful qi backlash, the pill was actually capable of cleansing baleful qi to help golden immortals overcome the baleful decay. However, this was only the purported effect of the pill. The reality was that the pill was so rare that its effects hadn't been verified on a widespread basis. In order to refine this pill, the 2 main ingredients were of the utmost importance: and one of them turned out to be none other than those dozen or so strange spirit plants that Han Li had harvested from the bottom of the ravine. Through the transient guild, he learned that the spirit plant was known as the bitter ornament herb, and it only grew in places with high densities of baleful qi. At the very least, tens of thousands of years were required for this spirit plant to arise, and they were extraordinarily expensive. As for the other main ingredient, that was the profound Zoisia crystal. Out of the four men, three of them had clearly never even heard of this material before, while Immortal Lord Hot Flame was silent for a moment before asking, "Fellow Taoist Li, are you referring to the legendary floral heart stone?" "That's right. Have you seen this material before, fellow Taoist Hot Flame?" Han Li hurriedly asked. "This is a spirit material of an exceptionally high caliber that I've never had the pleasure of witnessing for myself, but I've heard that it once appeared in the Jade Kun Pagoda of Jade Gathering City several centuries ago," Immortal Lord Hot Flame replied. "What exactly is this profound Zoisia crystal? It sounds so mysterious," Taoist Master Jingyang asked with a curious expression. The profound Zoisia crystal is a type of premium spirit stone that serves as a primary ingredient required to refine many high zenith stage pills. It starts off as a plant, which only produces a flower after tens of thousands of years, and once that flower blooms, a tiny crystal will appear in the heart of the flower. That is the profound Zoisia crystal, Immortal Lord Hot Flame explained. Unless external forces act upon it, the flower will never wilt, and the crystal will continue to grow. The older the crystal, the more potent the spiritual power and medicinal power that it contains. However, if even the slightest of external forces act upon it, the crystal will fall off, and the entire plant will instantly wilt away. As a result, they often grow in extremely secluded places, thereby making them extremely rare and expensive, Han Li added. "It sounds like these 5 stone pills of yours are going to be wasted," Taoist Master Jingyang mused with a shake of his head. "Rest assured, fellow Taoist Li, I may not be the most outgoing person, but I do have a few friends in the spirit materials business, and I'll be sure to ask them to keep an eye out," Duan Yuzai said in a serious manner. "You have my thanks," Han Li said as he cupped his fist in a salute. "I don't think I'll be of much help here. Old Man Hot Flame can enter Jade Gathering City as he pleases, so he should be able to gather some information for you. Perhaps what you're looking for will reappear in the Jade Kun Pagoda someday," Taoist Master Jingyang said. "Rest assured, fellow Taoist Li, I'll pay Jade Gathering City a visit as soon as I finish this game," Immortal Lord Hot Flame said, then returned his attention to the game at hand. "I resign," Duan Yuzai declared without any hesitation. Fine, fine. I'll make a trip to Jade Gathering City right away." Immortal Lord Hot Flame sighed in a resigned manner, then bade farewell to everyone before flying away toward the south. Tens of thousands of kilometers to the south of the floating Cloud Mountain Range stood the largest and most prosperous city in the northern region of the Black Mountain Immortal region, Jade Gathering City. In contrast with the cities of the northern glacial Immortal region, which were mostly inhabited by mortals, there were hundreds of immortal powers in Jade Gathering City, including both cultivating clans and sects, and the vast majority of the city's residents were also cultivators. Perhaps this was why the Immortal Palace was particularly stringent in its regulation of the city, which was split up into 2 sections, the outer city and the inner city. All cultivators could access the outer city as they pleased, but there were many restrictions on those wishing to enter the inner city. Cultivators below the true immortal stage and weren't registered with any of the Black Mountain Immortal regions, local sects were barred from entering the inner city, and that included even local itinerant cultivators. Only those who were at least at the high zenith stage were free to enter the inner city without having to satisfy any other conditions. It was said that an immortal envoy from the heavenly court was constantly stationed in the inner city of Jade Gathering City, and that they possessed unfathomable power. Back when Han Li first arrived in the Black Mountain Immortal region, he had actually gone straight to Jade Gathering City as opposed to the Leisure Valley. As soon as he entered the city, he spotted a plaza, upon which was a hovering platform named the Immortal Slaying List. The platform hovered over 10,000 feet above the ground, and there were figures from all types of different races depicted upon it, beneath which were lines of text that stated their crimes and the rewards on offer for their capture or demise. Han Li spotted quite a few familiar figures on the list, including Bailey Yan, Taoist Hu Yan, and Worm 3. Worm 3 was ranked even higher on the list than Bailey Yan, but the name attached to her visage was Gan Jiuzhen, and instead of revealing her true appearance, the image of her only depicted her wearing a crimson mask. As Han Li's gaze neared the bottom of the list, he spotted himself. In the image, he was dressed in an azure robe while holding a sword in one hand. His appearance was slightly inaccurate, but it was certainly very vibrant and lifelike. Beneath his image was a small passage of text that read, Li Feiyu cultivated forbidden arts and participated in the killing of an important heavenly court official. 5,000 immortal origin stones, dead or alive. Han Li's brows instantly furrowed tightly upon seeing this, not because he was on the list, but because he was feeling indignant at the measly reward being offered for his capture, which was only 5,000 immortal origin stones compared with 100,000 for Worm 3. Setting aside his killing of Tao Yu, surely the reward on offer for him should have been higher, given the role that he had played in killing Gong Shujiu, a high zenith stage immortal envoy. With that in mind, Han Li turned his gaze back to the image of Gan Jiuzhen on the list, upon which he discovered that she was being accused of a far more extensive list of crimes, including cultivating forbidden arts, killing immortal officials, and colluding with gray immortals. An enlightened look instantly appeared on Han Li's face upon seeing this. It seemed that Gan Jiuzhen and Mo Yu were being regarded as the main culprits behind Gong Shujiu's death, while he was only considered to be an accomplice. After that, Han Li was planning to leave the city right away, but he quickly discovered that even though there were countless cultivators in Jade Gathering City, barely anyone ever stopped to check the immortal slaying list. Upon closer inspection, he discovered that most of the people on the list were wanted by the Black Mountain Immortal Palace and the Heavenly Court, so they were already very familiar to the majority of the people in Jade Gathering City. Hence, they naturally weren't going to waste any time checking the list unless they had gathered some leads. Of course, another important factor was that most of the people on the list were formidable figures that were not to be messed with. Hence, Han Li decided to temporarily stay in Jade Gathering City to find a way to resolve the issue for the baleful qi in his body. However, his efforts proved to be futile, and given the special circumstances surrounding himself and Mo Guang, they encountered many inconveniences in the city, so after encountering Duan Yuzai by chance, he decided to move to the Leisure Valley. Everyone was quite amused to see Immortal Lord Hot Flame storming away. There really was no need to do that, fellow Taoist Duan. This is not a matter that I expect to have resolved anytime soon, so you could have easily finished your game with fellow Taoist Hot Flame before sending him on his way, Han Li said with a smile. It's fine. The heart is the most important thing in the game of Go. I had already lost interest in the game, and I'm sure that was apparent to fellow Taoist Hot Flame as well. Besides, I have the position memorized, so we could easily continue the game another time, Duan Yuzai replied, then swept a sleeve through the air to release a burst of black light that swept up the Go board and the stone holders. Right at this moment, Taoist Master Jingyang approached Han Li with a smile as he said, "Fellow Taoist Li, You mentioned last time that you were going to brew a few jars of fire drop wine. How has that been going? Fire drop wine isn't as difficult to brew as your green fermented wine, so my batch is already done, Han Li replied with a smile. My batch of green fermented wine is still a few thousand years away from being ready, so if I were to bring it out now, it would be a terrible waste, Taoist Master Jingyang explained with a slightly embarrassed expression. There's no need to explain yourself. I know you're not a stingy person, fellow Taoist Jingyang, Han Li assured, then swept a sleeve through the air, releasing a yellow wine jar in front of Taoist Master Jingyang. Taoist Master Jingyang hurriedly grabbed onto the jar with an ecstatic expression, then opened the clay seal before taking a whiff, upon which a blissful look instantly appeared on his face. Exceptional. A perplexed look then appeared on his face as he asked, "Why does this wine look like it's been sitting for at least several centuries? It doesn't look like something that only just finished brewing recently. We're all friends here, so I naturally have to bring out my best wine. This is a prized jar from my collection, so you're all in luck," Han Li explained with a smile. Du and Yu Ziki weren't avid drinkers, but they were more than happy to have a drink as a small circle of friends. As night fell, Han Li took his leave and returned to his cave abode, which had been dug into a mountain face deep within the bamboo forest, quite far away from the cave abodes of the other four men. At this moment, the stone gate of the cave abode was tightly shut, and there were two Tao warriors standing on guard duty on either side of it. The two Tao warriors were looking far different from before, with both of them displaying increased statures and drastically elevated auras, and some peculiar corkscrew patterns had also appeared on their bodies. On top of that, there was a hint of intelligence flashing in their eyes, and both of them extended a collective bow toward Han Li upon his return. Han Li paid no heed to the pair of Tao warriors as he made his way into the cave abode, upon which the stone gate swung shut behind him on its own. The cave abode wasn't very large, consisting of only a main hall and several secret chambers. He took a glance at two of the secret chambers to the left, which were where Mo Guang and Taoist Zai were cultivating in seclusion. Even though Mo Guang's baleful qi was being concealed through consumption of origin void pills, that was still not a foolproof solution, and in particular, he had almost been exposed on multiple occasions back in Jade Gathering City. Hence, upon arriving in the Leisure Valley, Mo Guang had remained in the cave abode the entire time. As for Taoist Zai, he had also suddenly gone into seclusion for some reason after arriving in the Black Mountain Immortal region. Han Li withdrew his gaze as he made his way into the secret chamber where he normally cultivated, then sat down with his legs crossed in silence. Following his separation with Jin Tong, he had followed the route on the map given to him by the white-robed man, which had allowed him to avoid most of the dangerous areas in the primordial land. Even so, he still encountered several crises that left him on the verge of death. If it weren't for his current cultivation base and his time law powers, as well as the accompaniment of Mo Guang, he would have most likely already fallen to his demise. On one occasion, they were pursued by several high zenith stage lightning beasts for 3 whole years. Those lightning beasts were extraordinarily fast, and they were able to use a teleportation secret technique similar to Han Li's lightning teleportation formation. For some reason, they were intent on hunting Han Li down, and in the end, Han Li was unable to shake them off his trail, so he had no choice but to fight them. He and Mo Guang joined forces to slay 2 of the lightning beasts, intimidating the remaining lightning beasts into retreat, but he had also suffered severe injuries during the battle, injuries that took him several years to fully recover from. On another occasion, he inadvertently stumbled into a naturally arising secret area that was filled with fire, and in the end, He was only able to escape after over 10 years of toil with the help of the essence fire raven. While it was true that this had been an extremely perilous journey, he had also reaped many rewards. Setting aside all of the precious primordial materials that he had gathered, he had also snuck into the settlements of some primordial tribes along the way and learned many of their secret techniques and cultivation arts. The two Tao warriors at the entrance of his cave abode had been refined using one of those secret techniques. Under normal circumstances, he would have been ecstatic to have reaped so many rewards, but at the moment, the threat of the baleful decay was constantly looming over his head, so he was constantly under a great deal of pressure. After sitting in silence for a moment, he suddenly made a hand seal, and a series of bright golden halos emerged in front of him, then converged toward a single spot to conjure up his clear time vial. The vial was significantly larger than before, and it appeared almost substantial in form. There were hundreds of time Tao runes flashing on its surface, and a series of long streaks of golden light were wrapped around the vial, giving off formidable time law power fluctuations. Over the past years, he had attempted to incorporate the experience that he had accrued while cultivating the mantra-treasured axis, using the time crystals produced by the heaven-controlling vial to increase the number of time Tao runes on the clear time vial, and it had worked without a hitch. Hanli inspected the clear jade vial momentarily, then set it down beside him before making another hand seal, upon which bursts of golden light surged out of his body. He began to chant an incantation while continuing to make hand seals, and the streaks of golden light transformed into grains of golden sand that hovered in the surrounding air while giving off faint golden light and time law power fluctuations. More and more of these grains of golden sand were emerging, and in the span of just a few seconds, they had formed a golden sand pit that was over 100 feet in size, filling up virtually the entire secret chamber. A special type of law power was flowing through the golden sand pit, while the golden light in the air was flashing incessantly while fluctuating in brightness, presenting a rather disorientating sight to behold. What was most remarkable was that, in the space encompassed within the sand pit, the flow of air and the world's origin chi was clearly far faster than it was in the area outside. Due to the presence of baleful chi in his immortal acupoints, Hanli was unable to make any progress in his cultivation beyond the pinnacle of the golden immortal stage. Hence, he had spent the majority of time cultivating the water divination time arts and the illusory dawn-treasured scripture. Perhaps he really did possess exceptional aptitude in the cultivation of the laws of time, but he was able to make rapid progress in both cultivation arts, having already reached the 6th chapter of the water divination time arts, and he had also reached a very high level in the illusory dawn-treasured scripture, allowing him to unleash the illusory dawn sand sea ability. As he flicked a finger through the air, the golden light emanating from the clear time vial abruptly brightened, and the streaks of golden light around it began to circulate far faster than before, resonating with the illusory dawn sand sea down below. Hanli made another hand seal to summon his mantra-treasured axis, and at this point, the number of time Tao runes on its surface had increased significantly. By consistently producing more time crystals with the heavenly controlling vial, Hanli had been able to reach the current upper limit of 720 time Tao runes on his mantra-treasured axis. A vast expanse of golden radiance erupted out of the mantra-treasured axis to fill the entire secret chamber. The 3 bursts of golden light from the mantra-treasured axis, the clear time vial, and the illusory dawn sand sea all seemed to be resonating with one another, causing the surrounding space to tremble and buzz faintly. Hanli wasn't all that surprised to see this. Back when he first obtained the water divination time arts and the illusory dawn-treasured scripture, he had already noticed that they seemed to be somehow connected to the mantra axis scripture, and his suspicions had only been confirmed through his pursuit of the three cultivation arts. The three cultivation arts were so closely intertwined with each other that it almost felt as if they had come from a single cultivation art. But Han Li was unable to conclude whether this was truly the case, as he still hadn't reached full mastery of all three cultivation arts. Right at this moment, Han Li closed his eyes and began to chant an incantation, upon which the three bursts of golden light began to flash in unison, before gradually coming together as one at his behest. The three bursts of different time law powers were also intertwining with one another, seemingly attempting to fuse with each other, but there was some resistance that existed between them, preventing their fusion. Through his cultivation, Han Li had gained a deeper understanding of the three cultivation arts and the power of time laws. As one of the three paramount laws, the laws of time was one of the most central and fundamental laws of heaven and earth. On a small scale, it directly impacted the life cycle of a living being or the decay of an object, while on a grand scale, it could be said that time was the driving force that was pushing the entire true immortal realm along. It was as if there were a pair of invisible hands that raised up the laws of time, so that it transcended above all other laws. And the reason why it was renowned as one of the paramount laws was because it was unaffected by the vast majority of other laws, but could also affect or alter some laws. For example, the most commonly seen laws of water and fire had their powers significantly diminished under the influence of the laws of time. Through the use of the mantra-treasured axis, the mantra axis scripture allowed one to control the speed of the passage of time in a certain area, which was already an extraordinary ability, but that was only one of the uses of the power of time laws. In other words, the laws of time were extremely vast and profound, and the mantra axis scripture alone certainly wasn't enough to encompass it in its entirety. As for the water divination time arts and the illusory dawn-treasured scripture, they were merely also alternative interpretations and uses of the power of time laws. It was a very rare feat for anyone to be able to expertly control and use any particular law power. For the average true immortal, even if they could sense the power of laws, there was no way for them to control these powers due to their limited immortal spiritual power, whereas golden immortals satisfied the minimum immortal spiritual power requirement to begin delving into the realm of law powers. The best way to improve one's mastery over a type of law power was to develop a better understanding of said law power. This was why Han Li had decided to use all three of these cultivation arts at once in order to come into contact with different types of time law powers, thereby furthering his understanding. As he continued to cycle through a string of hand seals, the three bursts of golden light in the secret chamber gradually came together to form a swirling golden vortex. All three bursts of time law powers had been incorporated into the vortex, but they were still separate entities that showed no signs of fusion. Han Li's brows furrowed slightly upon seeing this, and he began to cycle through his hand seals even faster. As a result, the golden vortex began to revolve faster while gradually shrinking in size. The three bursts of time law powers were clashing together forcefully, and countless golden runes surged out of the center of the vortex, giving off violent time law power fluctuations. However, the three bursts of time law powers still showed no signs of fusing together. Instead, it felt as if they were on the brink of exploding. Han Li hurriedly stopped what he was doing upon seeing this, and the golden vortex instantly stopped shrinking, while the violent time law power fluctuations also subsided. A wry smile appeared on Han Li's face as he shook his head with a resigned expression. Over the years, he had tried many different methods to fuse the three different time law powers, but all of his attempts had concluded in futility. Was there simply no way to fuse these three time law powers, or was there something that he was missing? All of a sudden, a fierce look appeared in Han Li's eyes, and he swept a sleeve through the air, releasing a flurry of over 1,000 azure formation flags, all of which vanished into different parts of the secret chamber. Azure light flashed erratically within the secret chamber to form a thick light barrier, upon which countless profound runes were flashing incessantly, giving the light barrier an indestructible appearance. At the same time, he drew upon his Xuanwu bloodline, and pieces of massive azure turtle shells appeared over his body, coming together to form a suit of dark green armor that encapsulated his entire body. After that, Han Li still wasn't content, and he opened his mouth to release several defensive immortal treasures, which transformed into protective barriers of different colors around him. With all of the preparations complete, he resumed what he had been doing before, and the golden vortex began to shrink once again as the three-time law powers clashed fiercely to produce an explosive aura. Han Li gave a cold harumph upon seeing this, and instead of stopping, he pressed on even more aggressively. The golden vortex was revolving rapidly, and the golden light at its center had become unbearably bright, while countless golden runes were surging violently within it. In the next instant, a terrifying aura erupted out of the center of the vortex, and it felt as if it could explode at any moment. Han Li's eyes narrowed slightly as he redoubled his efforts, and the golden vortex shuddered violently before shrinking even further. As a result, the ball of golden runes at the center of the vortex was compressed even more aggressively, and it was truly on the verge of explosion now. However, right at this moment, the three-time law powers seemed to have been compressed beyond a certain threshold, and they suddenly became mellow and docile, succumbing to Han Li's will and fusing together. The violently churning golden runes collapsed inward, then rapidly shrank down to form a shimmering ring of golden light, which sucked in the surrounding golden vortex. All of the golden light within the entire secret chamber quickly faded, and all that remained was a tiny golden ring that was glowing radiantly while hovering in midair. This was a completely unexpected turn of events for Han Li, and was looking on with a combination of elation and astonishment in his eyes. However, the golden ring wasn't very stable, and it quickly began to tremble violently while a series of cracks appeared over its surface, looking as if it could shatter any moment. An incredibly tremendous burst of time, law power fluctuations swept out of the golden ring, rapidly whittling down the azure light barrier within the secret chamber on contact. Han Li's brows furrowed slightly upon seeing this. While he did have other restrictions set up in the cave abode, they most likely wouldn't be able to contain this burst of time law power fluctuations, either. Right as he was to do something, a ball of green light suddenly flew out of his robes, and it was none other than his heaven-controlling vial. The vial hovered in midair with its opening facing the golden ring, and it was glowing as radiantly as a green sun. A burst of immense suction force surged out of the vial, sucking in the golden ring in a flash. With the golden ring gone, the burst of terrifying time law power fluctuations also faded, and the azure light barrier in the secret chamber was able to remain intact. Meanwhile, the heaven-controlling vial rapidly expanded as countless green runes emerged within it, then came together to form a churning green cloud. A burst of formidable law power fluctuations surged out of the green cloud, causing the nearby space to ripple incessantly. Right at this moment, a vertical golden eye abruptly sprang open at the center of the mantra-treasured axis, and a translucent golden thread shot out from within before vanishing into the heaven-controlling vial in a flash. The green cloud within the vial instantly brightened before erupting forth as a thick pillar of green light. The space in the path of the pillar of green light parted as countless rays of translucent light surged out of the resulting spatial rift, forming a translucent wall of light with a series of images rapidly flashing over its surface. A hint of disappointment appeared on Han Li's face upon seeing this. He had thought that something different would be triggered out of the heaven-controlling vial, but that didn't seem to be the case. Right at this moment, two beady little black eyes suddenly appeared on the surface of the heaven-controlling vial before turning to Han Li. At the same time, a faint voice rang out in his mind. "It's about time." Han Li's expression instantly changed slightly upon hearing this voice, but before he had a chance to do anything, an enormous vortex suddenly appeared on the translucent wall of light. A burst of tremendous suction force erupted out of the vortex to envelop Han Li's entire body, and this burst of suction force was several times more formidable than on the previous occasions where Han Li had been sucked into the wall of light. However, in the next instant, the burst of suction force suddenly faded, and Han Li felt a sharp pain in his mind, following which he completely lost consciousness. Some time later, Han Li returned to his senses in a rather disoriented fashion, and he looked around to discover that he was situated in a murky gray space, while down below was a barren dark red plain that stretched as far as the eyes could see. The plain was completely devoid of vegetation, and above it was a glittering silver river that was flowing through the sky amid a burst of dull rumbling. Upon closer inspection, Han Li discovered that, as opposed to water, what was flowing through the river were actually water droplet-like balls of light. Han Li was very surprised to see this, but he didn't immediately move. This instance of spiritual transmigration seemed to be different from the previous few occasions. There was a mysterious aura permeating throughout the entire surrounding environment, and he couldn't help but think of the eyes that had appeared on the heaven-controlling vial and the faint voice that he had heard in his mind. Those eyes weren't unfamiliar to him, as they belonged to the vial spirit of the heaven-controlling vial. As for the voice that he had heard, that had most likely come from the vial spirit. Han Li couldn't see the vial spirit anywhere nearby, nor could he make sense of what it had said, so he set the thought aside for now and began to examine his surroundings. All of a sudden, he noticed that unlike his previous spiritual transmigrations, he didn't seem to have possessed anyone. Instead, his bare soul was hovering midair. It appeared that all of this had been triggered by the golden ring formed by the 3 bursts of integrated time law powers, and it seemed to have reacted somehow with the heaven-controlling vial. With that in mind, Han Li swept his gaze over his surroundings once again, but didn't find anything of note over the boundless barren plain around him. After withdrawing his gaze, he began to approach the river in the sky, and from up close, he was able to see that the river was flowing from somewhere too far away for Han Li's eyes to reach, and there was no end to it in sight either. There were countless balls of light of different sizes flowing through the river, with some as large as millstones, while others were as tiny as grains of rice. Each of the balls of light contained a shimmering image, but they were flowing by too quickly for Han Li to be able to catch a clear glimpse of any of the images. The entire river was giving off an indescribable aura of mystique, and after staring at it in a transfixed fashion for some time, Han Li began carefully approaching the river again before peering into one of the larger water droplets that was passing by. This water droplet depicted an image of a yellow desert that was rapidly changing. After a brief hesitation, Han Li released his spiritual sense onto the water droplet in an attempt to catch a clear glimpse of the image on it. But right as he did this, the water droplet immediately began to glow brightly before releasing a burst of tremendous suction force. In the blink of an eye, Han Li's soul was sucked into the water droplet without being able to put up any resistance. His vision instantly faded, and only after an indeterminate period of time did he slowly return to his senses, upon which a slightly ragged voice tinged with a hint of lingering fear rang out from nearby. What a terrifying opponent that was! Even with the 5 of us joining forces, 3 of us were still killed." Another high-pitched voice rang out in response, and it was also sounding a little out of breath. That man had already reached the pinnacle of the 5th level of the spirit refinement technique, so he was bound to be an extremely formidable opponent. Those 3 were far too eager to claim the reward on his head, and they rushed in without any preparation like idiots. Having said that, it's a good thing that those 3 did rush in and weaken him. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to take him down. In any case, we suffered extremely heavy losses here. Will we be in trouble with our higher-ups? The first voice asked in a concerned manner. It'll be fine. Us immortal envoys are always tasked with perilous missions, so some casualties here and there are inevitable. All we have to do is bring this man's head back to our higher-ups, and we'll surely be handsomely rewarded, the high-pitched voice replied in a gleeful fashion. Han Li's heart jolted slightly upon hearing this conversation, and he hurriedly restrained his own spiritual fluctuations, then began to inspect his surroundings in secret. Just like during the previous few spiritual transmigrations, he had possessed a corpse. The body belonged to a black-robed middle-aged man with a head of disheveled long hair and a long and thin face. Even though he was already dead, there was still a fierce look about his sharp facial features. At this moment, he was laying on a yellow desert, and countless huge craters had been blasted into the ground all around him. Plumes of dense smoke were billowing out of some of these craters, releasing an acrid sulfurous odor. It was clear that an intense battle had just taken place here not long ago. There were 2 men clad in suits of golden armor nearby, and the symbols on those suits of golden armor were precisely the insignia of the heavenly court. One of the armor-clad figures was a tall elderly man with a tall nose and a pair of thin eyebrows, while the other one was a bald young man with a round face and a rotund frame. At this moment, both of them were looking rather pale, and the bald young man was looking particularly worse for wear, with blood trickling down from the corner of his lips and signs of damage on his suit of golden armor. Strewn over the ground further away were there more bodies clad in suits of golden armor. Han Li only briefly inspected his surroundings before immediately withdrawing his spiritual sense and directing it deeper into the mind of the body that he had possessed. Through that brief inspection of his surroundings, Han Li had determined that the 2 armor-clad men were both at the high zenith stage, and their cultivation bases were far superior to that of Guang Shujiu, indicating that they were at least at the mid-high zenith stage, perhaps even the late-high zenith stage. Through their conversation, Han Li had learned that they were both immortal envoys of the heavenly court, and if they were to discover that another soul had appeared in this body, then they would be sure to kill it right away. His soul had been transmigrated to this place by the heaven-controlling vial, so he wasn't sure what the consequences of being killed here would be, but he wasn't keen on finding out. Right as Han Li's soul began to burrow deeper into the black-robed man's mind, a tremendous burst of heat suddenly surged forth before fusing into Han Li's soul. The burst of heat was a burst of enormous and extremely pure spiritual sense, and it quickly began to inflate Han Li's soul like a balloon. The burst of immense spiritual sense carried with it a series of memory fragments belonging to the black-robed man, and they also flooded into Han Li's mind. Perhaps Han Li's soul had already grown accustomed to all of this from the previous few instances of transmigration, but he was able to easily receive the black-robed man's memories without much pain or other adverse effects. Han Li's soul was able to easily harness these fragmented memories, but the burst of spiritual sense was too immense, and only a small portion of it had surged into Han Li's soul before full saturation was reached. The remaining spiritual sense swirled around Han Li's soul, forming a glittering and translucent white cloud that was rapidly revolving along an extremely profound trajectory. Han Li was ecstatic to see this. This burst of spiritual sense was far more powerful than his own, and this method of channeling spiritual sense was the exact method stipulated in the fifth level of the spirit refinement technique. Han Li had been arduously cultivating the fifth level of the spirit refinement technique over the years, but it had been far more difficult to grasp than he had anticipated, and even after toiling away for several centuries, not much progress had been made. As he felt this burst of spiritual sense swirling around him, he found solutions to many of the problems that had previously stumped him in his cultivation, and he was struck by a sense of enlightenment. However, given the current situation, he couldn't afford to immerse himself in all of this. His eyes abruptly sprang open as he swept a sleeve through the air, and a black flying sword shot out of the palm of his hand. As soon as the flying sword was released, it instantly vanished into thin air, immediately following which countless black sword projections emerged, forming a massive sword mountain that swept toward the pair of armor-clad men. There was no way that the two men would have failed to notice the eruption of spiritual sense from the black-robed man's mind, and sure enough, both of them turned to the body on the ground with astonished expressions before hurriedly darting back in retreat. However, in their panic, both of them had failed to notice that a streak of translucent light had shot out of Han Li's glabella before vanishing into thin air. "How are you still not dead?" the tall, elderly man exclaimed in an incredulous voice as he made a grabbing motion with one hand, and countless blue ripples instantly surged out of the palm of his hand, forming a massive blue worm projection that swooped down toward the Black Sword Mountain. The giant blue worm wrapped its body around the Black Sword Mountain, then released a burst of formidable glacial power that instantly froze the entire surrounding space. The Black Sword Mountain was also frozen solid, and drew to an abrupt halt as a thick layer of blue ice crystals appeared over its surface. As for the portly young man, there was a fearful look in his eyes, but he also sprang into action, sweeping a sleeve through the air to release a pair of crimson curved daggers, each of which was around 3 feet in length. Bursts of crimson flames were burning over the curved daggers, forming a series of fiery crimson flowers that were giving off a terrifying scorching aura. The 2 curved daggers circled around in the air before hurtling directly toward Han Li as 2 streaks of crimson light. Right at this moment, Han Li thrust his hands into the ground, launching himself upward like a weightless sheet of paper, allowing him to just barely evade the 2 streaks of crimson light. At the same time, a faint smile appeared on his face as he abruptly made a hand seal, and several translucent chains shot out of thin air behind the tall, elderly man before vanishing into his head in a flash. A horrified look appeared on the elderly man's face, yet before he had a chance to do anything, his eyes completely glazed over, while his body also became suspended in midair in a completely still manner. The sneak attack from Han Li had come far too abruptly and unexpectedly, and the elderly man was barely able to display any of his power before his soul was trapped within a spiritual sense cage. "Senior Marshal Brother Gao," the portly young man called out in an alarmed voice, and the fear in his eyes became even more pronounced. A cold smile appeared on Han Li's face as he flew directly toward the young man with translucent light flashing from his glabella. The portly young man immediately flew away as a streak of crimson light in a blind panic, and he was in such a hurry to escape that he had even abandoned his pair of curved dagger immortal treasures. The streak of crimson light vanished into the distance in the blink of an eye, and Han Li immediately stopped in his tracks upon seeing this, choosing not to give chase. All of a sudden, his complexion became extremely pale, and he was panting heavily as he drifted back down onto the ground. There wasn't much immortal spiritual power left in this body to begin with, and it had been virtually completely exhausted while Han Li was unleashing his spirit sense cage on the elderly man. So if the portly young man had fought back, then he would have been completely powerless to resist. Thankfully, the young man had a very cowardly personality, and he immediately fled the scene at the slightest show of intimidation. Hanli flipped a hand over to produce an immortal origin stone that he held in his hand to recover his immortal spiritual power, and at the same time, he pointed a finger forward, mustering up what little remained of his immortal spiritual power to shoot a beam of black light out of his fingertip, which pierced through the tall, elderly man's head. The elderly man's head instantly exploded, and his headless body toppled to the ground. After doing all of that, Hanli also slumped to the ground, feeling completely spent. Now that the immediate threat had been dealt with, he was finally able to take a look at his surroundings, and he discovered that this yellow desert was rather similar to the setting that he had seen in that water droplet. After sitting in silence for a short while, Hanli looked up to discover a mantra-treasured axis projection hovering above his head, and at this point, only a small portion of its 720-time Tao runes had faded. He closed his eyes as he carefully sensed the circulation of the enormous spiritual sense in his mind, experiencing the feeling of the 5th level of the spirit refinement technique, while also examining the memories of the body that he had possessed. As it turned out, the black-robed man's name was Lu Renjia, and he was a reincarnation disciple of the Reincarnation Palace. In contrast with Han Li, he was a true reincarnation disciple, granting him access to a vast formation of the Reincarnation Palace's cultivation resources. However, in return, he had to periodically complete missions released by the Reincarnation Palace. It was during one such mission that Lu Renjia had come to this place, which was called the Open Origin Immortal Region, and he was ambushed by 5 immortal envoys of the Heavenly Court, thereby leading to his demise. Hanli really wanted to know more about the Reincarnation Palace, so he closely examined Lu Renjia's memory fragments, and a long while later, he raised his head with slightly furrowed brows. Most of Lu Renjia's memory fragments contained cultivation information that was useless to him, and Han Li was only able to find very little information about the Reincarnation Palace. Lu Renjia had already been a reincarnation disciple for over 2 million years, but he was a cultivation fanatic who was constantly cultivating in seclusion in his cave abode, very rarely coming out to go anywhere. Even though he was a reincarnation disciple, he had no intention of becoming excessively involved with the Reincarnation Palace. He had carried out many Reincarnation Palace missions, but never had he met any of the Reincarnation Palace's leading figures. The person that he came into contact with the most was a reincarnation envoy, who served as the contact between him and the Reincarnation Palace. Aside from that, there was no other information pertaining to the Reincarnation Palace. Hanli shook his head before raising his head to look up at the mantra-treasured axis projection once again, and at this point, over a quarter of the time, Tao runes on its surface had already faded. After a brief moment of contemplation, Hanli rose to his feet, then made his way over to the body of the tall, elderly man before tracking down his storage tool. He then strode over to the other 3 bodies and collected their storage tools as well. After that, he sat down and placed the 4 storage tools on the ground in front of himself, along with Lu Renjia's storage ring, then began to examine their contents one by one. All 5 of these deceased cultivators had been at the high zenith stage, so they were extremely wealthy, and their storage tools contained enormous numbers of immortal origin stones, as well as many immortal treasures, materials, and pills of an extremely high caliber. Unfortunately, there was no way that Han Li could take these things with him, so he began focusing on things that could be of use to him. Moments later, a small pile of items appeared on the ground in front of him, consisting mostly of some scriptures and jade slips, as well as a golden disc, a golden badge, and a white plate. Han Li picked up the golden disc and the white plate for a brief examination, then set them down before picking up the golden badge. He had seen both of these items in Gong Shujiu's storage tool before. The golden disc was the item that was used for communication between immortal envoys, while the white plate was what they used to detect the aura of the spirit refinement technique. As for the golden badge, that appeared to be an identity badge, and each one of the 4 armor-clad figures had one in their possession. There was a beautiful dragon engraved onto the edge of the badge, and on one side was engraved the character for prison, while the other side carried a number. Han Li briefly inspected the badge for a moment, then quickly set it aside before turning his attention to the scriptures and jade slips, most of which contained cultivation arts and secret techniques. These were naturally all very remarkable cultivation arts, given that they were part of collections of high zenith cultivators, and they were certainly very eye-opening for Han Li. Even though he still had time, he didn't want to spend too much of it here, so he quickly flipped through the scriptures one after another, making no attempt to memorize their contents. All of a sudden, he spotted a gray jade slip, which contained a pill recipe as opposed to any cultivation art or secret technique. The recipe was for a pill by the name of the Vajra Iron Bone Pill, and it contained the laws of metal, able to enhance the consumer's physical constitution while also aiding in the mastery of the laws of metal. Han Li took a glance at the mantra-treasured axis projection above his head to find that only less than half of its time Dao runes remained lit. He then withdrew his gaze before taking some time to memorize the pill recipe, following which he tossed the jade slip aside before continuing to check through the other items. It didn't take long before he had examined all of the scriptures and jade slips, and he swept a sleeve through the air to stow them away, then picked up the 5 storage tools before flying away into the distance. Shortly thereafter, he descended onto an oasis in the desert, at the center of which was a small lake. He swept a sleeve through the air once again to release a burst of black light that enveloped the storage tools, carrying them to the lakebed before burying them. After that, he sat down beside the oasis with his legs crossed and continued the intricacies of the 5th level of the spirit refinement technique. He hadn't closely examined the contents of the storage tools, as he wanted to dedicate as much time to experiencing the spirit refinement technique as possible. As time slowly passed by, the time Dao runes on the mantra-treasured axis projection faded one after another, and as the final time Dao rune turned dark, the axis projection suddenly turned a black color, then transformed into a vortex. A burst of tremendous suction force surged out of the vortex, and Han Li's soul was sucked into it without being able to pose any resistance. Once again, his consciousness faded, and some time later, he slowly opened his eyes, upon which he discovered that he had returned to his cave abode. The heaven-controlling vial was still hovering in midair, but the green light that it was giving off was rapidly fading, and in the end, it returned to its original size before falling down from above. Han Li reached out to catch the vial, then briefly examined it before injecting his spiritual sense into it, trying to contact the vial spirit that he had caught a brief glimpse of. However, despite his best efforts, he was unable to garner any response from the vial spirit, and it was as if it had fallen into a slumber once again. Han Li could only heave a resigned sigh before stowing the heaven-controlling vial away. After that, he flipped a hand over to produce a jade slip, then transferred the Vajra Iron Bone Pill recipe that he had memorized onto it so that he wouldn't forget it. After stowing the jade slip away, Han Li took a deep breath before closing his eyes once again. During this instance of spiritual transmigration, he had been transported into that mysterious space and witnessed that mysterious river, which had left him with many questions. It seemed that the scenes flowing through the river depicted the history of certain people. It appeared that all of these people had already died or were on the brink of death, and by possessing their bodies, Han Li was able to examine some of their memories and learn some things. As for whether he could choose which target he could possess, that was something that he would have to examine next time. The problem was that with each spiritual transmigration, all of the time Tao runes on his mantra-treasured axis would be snuffed out, and even though they were currently able to recover far faster than before, it would still take quite a bit of time for a full recovery. The main reward that he had reaped from this instance of spiritual transmigration were the cultivation insights pertaining to the 5th level of the spirit refinement technique that he had gleaned from Lu Renjia. With these newly gained insights, he was confident that he would be able to make far faster progress in his cultivation of the 5th level of the spirit refinement technique. Right as he was about to begin cultivating, he suddenly opened his eyes before casting his gaze outside. A ball of white light had flown in from outside the cave abode, and it circled around in Han Li's secret chamber momentarily before suddenly shattering. Han Li's brows furrowed slightly upon seeing this, and he rose to his feet before deactivating the surrounding restrictions, then made his way out of his secret chamber. The gate of the cave abode was open to reveal a gray-robed elderly man standing outside. The man had a goatee on his chin, and he had a rather snide and sneaky appearance. Han Li faltered slightly at the sight of the elderly man, then smiled as he said, "Long time no see, fellow Taoist Lu." The elderly man was Lu Guanzi, who lived in the nearby Sunny Valley, and he got along very well with Taoist Master Jingyang and Immortal Lord Hot Flame, regularly paying them visits, so over time, Han Li had also become well acquainted with him. "Please pardon my intrusion, fellow Taoist Li," Lu Guanzi said with a smile. "Come in, what brings you here today?" Han Li asked as he made an inviting hand gesture. "It's all right, let's just talk here," Lu Guanzi refused with a faint smile. Han Li faltered slightly upon hearing this, then smiled as he prompted, "Please go ahead, fellow Taoist Lu." "Recently, several fellow Taoists and I discovered a set of ruins deep in the Heavenly Peak mountain range in the north. However, there are quite a few powerful restrictions and some other hazards present in the ruins, so we all decided to come back and recruit some more people to explore the ruins together. You're one of the most powerful cultivators in the few nearby valleys, so I thought I'd come and ask if you were interested in coming with us to try your luck," Lu Guanzi said with a smile. Han Li's brows furrowed slightly upon hearing this, and he didn't immediately offer a response. The smile on Lu Guanzi's face faded slightly at the sight of Han Li's reaction, but he didn't try to hurry Han Li into making a decision. "Thank you for the invitation, fellow Taoist Lu, but I'm busy with some other things at the moment, so I'm afraid I won't be able to explore the ruins with you," Han Li replied after a brief silence. Lu Guanzi could see that Han Li had already made up his mind, and a slightly disappointed look appeared on his face as he cupped his fist in a parting salute. "In that case, I'll leave you to do what you need to do." After escorting Lu Guanzi out of the cave abode, Han Li closed the gate and returned to his secret chamber before sitting down with his legs crossed. He hadn't turned down Lu Guanzi solely because he was busy cultivating the spirit refinement technique. Instead, there were some other factors at play as well. With that in mind, he made a hand seal, and his mantra-treasured axis appeared behind him amid a flash of golden light. With all 720 of its time Tao runes completely dull and devoid of luster. With his mantra-treasured axis in its current state, Han Li's powers were significantly hampered, making it very unwise to venture into a set of potentially dangerous ruins. After withdrawing the mantra-treasured axis back into his body, Han Li closed his eyes, and a layer of faintly rippling translucent light surfaced over his glabella. The stone gate of his cave abode remained shut, and none of the residents of the Leisure Valley came to disturb him. Over 30 years flew by in the blink of an eye, and on this day, a streak of light arrived from afar before descending in front of Han Li's cave abode. A disheveled elderly man emerged from the streak of light, and it was none other than Immortal Lord Hot Flame. Before he even had a chance to announce his arrival, the gate of the cave abode swung open, and Han Li emerged from within with a smile on his face. "My apologies for not coming out to greet you sooner, fellow Taoist Hot Flame. There's no need to be so formal with me. Besides, I only just returned, so how could you have known to come out sooner than you did?" Immortal Lord Hot Flame said with a smile of his own. "Please come in," Han Li said as he made an inviting hand gesture. Immortal Lord Hot Flame waved a hand in response. "It's all right, I won't come in. I came here today to deliver something to you. You've constantly been in seclusion of late, so I could only wait until today." An elated look immediately appeared on Han Li's face upon hearing this, and he exclaimed, "Could it be that you found a profound Zoisia crystal?" "I'm afraid not, fellow Taoist Li. A material of such exceptional rarity is not that easy to find," Immortal Lord Hot Flame replied with a wry smile. "Oh, what else could it be then?" Han Li asked with a puzzled expression. A burst of white light flashed over the palm of Immortal Lord Hot Flame's hand, and he tossed an object at Han Li. Upon catching the object, Han Li discovered that it was a palm-sized white jade badge, upon which was engraved a red leaf design, to the left of which was inscribed the words, "Outer Sect Elder Badge," in ancient text. This was an Outer Sect Elder Badge from the Fire Leaf sect, which was the sect that Immortal Lord Hot Flame belonged to. Han Li flipped the badge over to find that the words Li Han were engraved onto the other side. "What is the meaning of this, fellow Taoist Hot Flame?" Han Li asked. "With this badge, you'll officially be a registered cultivator at our Fire Leaf sect, so you'll be able to visit the inner city of Jade Gathering City as you please. Having said that, this badge is only a symbolic token, and you won't be receiving any elder benefits from our sect. Ours is only a small sect, and we can't afford any golden immortal stage outer sect elders," Immortal Lord Hot Flame chuckled. "Thank you, fellow Taoist Hot Flame. Rest assured, if I'm going to serve as an outer sect elder of the Fire Leaf sect, then I'll be sure to do my part. From now, I can guarantee the provision of a batch of true immortal stage pills every 300 years. Of course, your sect will have to provide the ingredients," Han Li said. "There's no need for that, fellow Taoist Li. All of us have come to this place to unburden ourselves from responsibilities. I'm not giving this badge to you because I want something in return, so there's really no need for you to promise me anything," Immortal Lord Hot Flame said with a serious expression. "Rest assured, refining a batch of true immortal stage pills every 300 years is not much of a hassle for me at all. I presume it wasn't easy for you to secure this elder badge for me, so it's the least that I can do," Han Li said. Even though Immortal Lord Hot Flame wasn't explicitly asking for anything in return, Han Li naturally couldn't just take the badge free of charge. Furthermore, it was clear from the barely concealed delight in Immortal Lord Hot Flame's eyes that this was the exact outcome that he had been hoping for. In the short term, a batch of true immortal stage pills every 300 years wasn't going to have much of an impact, but how would it look after tens of thousands of years? It wouldn't exactly be enough to elevate the Fire Leaf sect to a whole new level, but it would certainly allow the sect to put some distance between itself and its closest competitors. Even though Immortal Lord Hot Flame had come to reside in the Leisure Valley to escape from his worldly responsibilities, it was clear that the Fire Leaf sect still held an important place in his heart. All official personnel changes in large and medium-sized sects within the territory of Jade Gathering City had to undergo a screening and registration process with the Black Mountain Immortal Palace. Outer sect disciples weren't considered to be official sect members, but all inner sect disciples, outer sect elders, core disciples, and inner sect elders fell into that category, and the higher one's rank in the sect, the more rigorous the screening process would be. I have some acquaintances in the Black Mountain Immortal Palace, so the registration process shouldn't be a problem, Immortal Lord Hot Flame said. You have my thanks, fellow Taoist Hot Flame, Han Li said as he extended another grateful salute. If you insist on being so formal with me, then I'm going to take back the badge, Immortal Lord Hot Flame said in a stern manner. Han Li chuckled in response as he stowed the badge away, and the two of them chatted for a while longer before Immortal Lord Hot Flame departed, while Han Li returned to his cave abode. 2 months later, Jade Gathering City was riddled with countless streets and alleys, and there were shops and merchant carriages stretching as far as the eyes could see, interspersed throughout which were throngs of people, presenting an extremely lively and bustling sight to behold. Numerous, enormous merchant ships could also be seen in the sky, flying along set trajectories before descending onto the docks in the city in an orderly fashion, transporting all types of different wares. The outer and inner cities were separated by a giant city wall that was over 1,000 feet tall, which was patrolled by cultivators, and there was a huge city gate in each direction, north, south, east, and west, all of which were overseen by true immortals. The people streaming through the northern gate of the inner city was relatively sparse compared with the other 3 gates, and there were only fewer than 200 people gathered there in a line, waiting to be examined before being granted permissions to enter the inner city. Near the back of the line was none other than the azure-robed Han Li, who was currently inspecting the city gate up ahead. Numerous formation patterns had been engraved into the city wall around the gate, and they would glow with azure light whenever someone made their way through the gate. It seemed that this was a measure in place to examine the cultivation bases of those wishing to enter the city. Whenever the formation patterns lit up, that meant that the person being examined was at least at the early true immortal stage, and as long as they were verified to be registered with a local sect, then they were granted free passage into the inner city. Han Li was slowly advancing forward in the line when someone suddenly flew directly past him, flying directly toward the city gate without any regard for the line or displaying any items of identification. Right as everyone was wondering what this person was doing, the formation patterns engraved into the city wall suddenly began to glow with dazzling golden light, indicating that the new arrival was a high zenith stage Jade Immortal. Even though Jade Gathering City was the #1 city in the northern part of the Black Mountain Immortal region, high zenith cultivators were still a very rare sight here, so everyone was looking on in awe and wonder. Before anyone had a chance to catch a clear glimpse of the Jade Immortal, they had already drifted into the inner city and vanished out of sight. After a brief disturbance, the line settled down again before continuing to advance toward the city gate. A few minutes later, Han Li arrived at the city gate, and the formation patterns around the gate began to glow white, reflecting his golden immortal stage cultivation base. At the request of the cultivators stationed at the city gate, Han Li offered up his Fire Leaf Sect Elder badge, and one of them accepted the badge before placing it onto a nearby stone platform. The miniature formation on the stone platform immediately lit up to examine the badge, and moments later, the badge was returned to Han Li by a middle-aged cultivator, who said in a respectful manner, "You're free to enter the inner city, senior." Han Li recovered his badge before making his way through the city gate, and as soon as he set foot into the inner city, he instantly felt as if his surroundings had become a little brighter, while the spiritual qi in the surrounding air had also become more abundant. Han Li examined his surroundings briefly to discover that there were countless strange runes engraved onto the ground and the walls of the nearby buildings, and he couldn't help but remark to himself, This entire inner city has been constructed like an immortal sect. No wonder the people on Relaxation Mountain always speak of the inner city of Jade Gathering City with such reverence. As he made his way deeper into the inner city, he discovered that it was far more peaceful here than in the outer city. There weren't many pedestrians on the streets, and most of them were traversing from one shop to another. Hanli picked out a shop that was situated in a large three-story pavilion before making his way inside, but it didn't take long before he was escorted back out of the shop by an apologetic-looking shopkeeper. According to the shopkeeper, only 3 shops in Jade Gathering City had any chance of having a profound Zoisia crystal in their catalog, and even if they did, they were very unlikely to be willing to sell such a precious material. Hanli had already anticipated this, so he wasn't overly disappointed, but he still decided to try his luck in the city. Over the course of the day, Hanli visited dozens of shops, but the outcome was the same every single time. In fact, many of the shopkeepers had told him that while a profound Zoisia crystal had indeed once appeared in Jade Gathering City, the chances of it reappearing in the city were slim to none. However, Hanli remained unfazed as he continued to go from one shop to the next. At this point, it was getting quite close to night time, and Hanli had arrived at the Jade Kun Pagoda that Immortal Lord Hot Flame had spoken of. In contrast with Hanli's expectations, the Jade Kun Pagoda wasn't some particularly grand and majestic building. Instead, it was an octagonal pagoda with red walls and green roof tiles, looking much like a building one would find in the mortal world. At this moment, the pagoda's southern entrance was closed, and there was a ceiling talisman that bore the insignia of the Black Mountain Immortal Palace plastered to it. After asking around, Hanli learned that the Jade Kun Pagoda was not just some ordinary shop. Instead, it was an auction venue that only opened during the city founding celebration, which took place once every 3,000 years, and there were still 200 to 300 years until the next celebration. Hence, Hanli made his way to a rather secluded Immortal Inn in Jade Gathering City, then rented a cave abode for himself there, going out to continue his search during the day while cultivating at night. 5 or 6 years flew by in a flash. During this time, Hanli didn't have any luck in his search for the profound Zoisia crystal, but he learned many things about Jade Gathering City. This place was truly a central hub for countless immortals and businesses, and the number and variety of things like spirit materials, spirit medicines, treasures, and cultivation arts being sold here far surpassed that of any city in the northern glacial immortal region. Furthermore, the wares being sold here held significant advantages in terms of quality and price as well. Compared with the free market system adopted in the Transient Guild, the prices of the wares being sold in Jade Gathering City were clearly determined in a much more organized and systematic fashion. Hence, during his search for a profound Zoisia crystal, Hanli had sold many of his redundant immortal treasures, spirit materials, and other items, and he had also purchased many supplementary ingredients for refining baleful quelling pills. However, he didn't dare to splurge excessively on those items, only buying 1 or 2 of each supplementary ingredient. After all, he was going to need all of the immortal origin stones that he could save up if he really did encounter a profound Zoisia crystal. He had made a killing back in the infernal frost immortal manner, but in the wake of his journey through the primordial land and the expenditures that he had made in Jade Gathering City, he currently only had fewer than 500,000 immortal origin stones left. This sounded like quite a significant sum, and it was, but it was only a fraction of the wealth that he had possessed prior to entering the primordial land. This rate of spending was quite alarming to Hanli, and he decided that he had to be more frugal from now on. At this point, he had already visited most of the large shops in the city, but he still hadn't received any news on the profound Zoisia crystal. During his search, He had significantly neglected HSI cultivation, so he left Jade Gathering City and returned to the Leisure Valley once again. The days spent in the valley were just as peaceful and leisurely as usual, and less than half a year following Han Li's return, he suddenly received a message from Taoist Master Jingyang, inviting him to a gathering at the Wave Ripple Pavilion in the valley. He declared that the purple seductress wine that he had been brewing was ready, and he wanted everyone to have a taste. Han Li initially turned down the invitation, but Taoist Master Jingyang was very persistent, sending him 2 more invitations, so Han Li had no choice but to oblige in the end. The Wave Ripple Pavilion was situated quite deep in the Leisure Valley, and it was closest to Mo Wuxu's cave abode. It was a waterside pavilion constructed at the center of a pond, and it wasn't very large, but it was a beautiful display of intricate craftsmanship. By the time Han Li arrived, everyone had already gathered in the pavilion. Du and Yu and the others were seated around a stone table that was laden with immortal fruits, beside which was a green jade wine flagon that contained fragrant dark purple wine, while Yu Ziki was seated with his legs crossed behind a gyukin further away from everyone else. His slim fingers were gently strumming the strings of his gyukin, and there was a warm smile on his face as he occasionally glanced at the only woman in the pavilion. Fellow Taoist Li, you are the only one in this valley whose taste is on a comparable level to mine. If you didn't show up, I would have been absolutely distraught, Taoist Master Jingyang complained at Han Li's tardy arrival. My apologies, fellow Taoist Jingyang. I only just came back from Jade Gathering City, and I still had some errands to attend to. Otherwise, I wouldn't have turned down your initial invitation, Han Li replied as he cupped his fist in an apologetic salute. Mo Wuxu was a beautiful young woman in a white dress, and she asked, I hear you went to Jade Gathering City to find a floral heart stone. Did you manage to find one? I'm afraid not, Celestial Maiden Mo, Han Li replied with a wry smile and a shake of his head. Duan Yuzai was in his usual pristine black robe, and he said, none of my old friends were able to provide any news on a profound Zoisia crystal, either. I suppose there isn't much that we can do aside from wait. Let's not discuss this matter today. Otherwise, it would spoil the mood and do a complete injustice to fellow Taoist Yu's music and fellow Taoist Jingyang's exquisite purple seductress, Han Li said with a faint smile. Indeed, fellow Taoist Li, I propose a toast, Taoist Master Jingyang said with a wide smile as he presented a filled jade cup to Han Li. Han Li accepted the cup, then took a slight whiff of its contents before listing out a string of ingredients, then concluded, You've truly added a whole host of exceptional ingredients to this wine, fellow Taoist Jingyang. That's extraordinary, fellow Taoist Li. You've just listed almost all of the ingredients in my wine brewing recipe, and you haven't even taken a sip yet. How did you manage to do that? Taoist Master Jingyang exclaimed. You're far too kind, fellow Taoist Jingyang. This is nowhere near as impressive as you make it sound, Han Li chuckled in a modest fashion. Back in the Blaze Dragon Dao, Han Li had tasted a vast formation of exceptional wines with Taoist Hu Yan, and the two of them had discussed wine brewing extensively, thereby allowing Han Li to develop a very deep and comprehensive understanding in this field. The wine soon began to flow, and as everyone was enjoying the purple maiden brew, Taoist Master Jingyang suddenly turned to Immortal Lord Hot Flame with a gloating look on his face as he asked, Old man Hot Flame, you've been in Jade Gathering City for a long time. Have you ever attended a Jade Kun Pagoda auction? The auction only takes place once every 3,000 years, and the spots are always limited. The golden jade silk squares required for entry to the auction is exceptionally rare, and I recall one time that someone was reselling a golden jade silk square for as high as 600 immortal origin stones. I may be the grand elder of the Fire Leaf sect, but even I can't just go wasting 600 immortal origin stones on a golden jade silk square, so I've naturally never attended one of these auctions, Immortal Lord Hot Flame replied. So that means you've never seen a golden jade silk square before, right? Taoist Master Jingyang asked with a smug smile. What are you trying to say? Immortal Lord Hot Flame asked as a disgruntled look appeared in his eyes. I wanted to show you something. Taoist Master Jingyang raised a hand as he spoke, and a palm-sized golden silk square appeared amid a flash of golden light. The silk square looked as if it had been woven out of countless incredibly thin silk threads, and an octagonal pagoda design was embroidered onto its center, surrounded by images of various types of birds, beasts, insects, and fish. It was immediately apparent to Han Li that the octagonal pagoda was the Jade Kun pagoda. Impossible. There are still over 200 years until the next auction. There's no way the golden jade silk squares would be released this earlier. Immortal Lord Hot Flame exclaimed as he sprang to his feet with a stunned expression. What? Are you saying that my golden jade silk square is fake? Taoist Master Jingyang asked as a displeased look appeared on his face. Of course I know it's not fake. These golden jade silk squares were created by the 100 Creations Mountain, and there's no way this level of craftsmanship can be faked. On top of that, with the Black Mountain Immortal Palace overseeing these auctions, who would dare to make a counterfeit? Only someone with a death wish would do that. Immortal Lord Hot Flame grumbled. Han Li's heart stirred slightly upon hearing mention of the 100 Creations Mountain. He wasn't unfamiliar with this sect. In fact, the 100 Meridian Refinement mantra that he had cultivated back in the spirit realm had come from the 100 Creations Mountain, and he had also heard mention of this sect on multiple occasions since then. Even in the context of the entire true immortal realm, the 100 Creations Mountain was an extremely prominent tool refinement sect, and it was extraordinarily powerful, with branches set up in many major immortal regions. Yuziki also stood up and made his way over to Mo Wuxu's side upon seeing this. With everyone's attention focused on him, Taoist Master Jingyang was feeling even more smug, and he feigned an expression of modesty as he said in a nonchalant voice, "It's no big deal. You didn't invite all of us here to drink wine, you old fart. You made all of us come here so that you could show off your golden jade silk square," Immortal Lord Hot Flame denounced. No, I'm showing all of you this golden jade silk square because I wanted to tell fellow Taoist Li that I'll be keeping an eye out for any profound Zoisia crystals during the Jade Kun Pagoda auction, and that if I see one, I'll be sure to secure it for him, Taoist Master Jingyang explained. In that case, why don't you just do fellow Taoist Li another favor and give him this golden jade silk square outright? Immortal Lord Hot Flame asked with a sly grin. Well, I also want to see if any treasures that are to my liking will show up during the auction, Taoist Master Jingyang said with a faint smile as he stowed the golden jade silk square away. Han Li was naturally quite eager to secure the golden jade silk square for himself, and he transmitted his voice directly to Taoist Master Jingyang as he asked, "Would it be possible for you to give me the golden jade silk square, fellow Taoist Jingyang? I can repay you in anything, whether that be immortal origin stones, pills, treasures, or even the wine recipes that you've always wanted." Taoist Master Jingyang was silent for a long while, seemingly mulling over Han Li's offer, but ultimately he replied, "My apologies, but this golden jade silk square was quite difficult to come by, so I can't give it to you. Rest assured, I'll definitely secure a profound Zoisia crystal for you if it shows up during the auction." In that case, can you at least tell me how you managed to obtain this golden jade silk square? Han Li asked. Even though the auction is set to take place over 200 years later, the preparations for the event have already begun. I hear that they're missing a pill refinement master for pill appraisals, and I can see that you're a very competent pill refinement master, so perhaps you can apply for the role, Taoist Master Jingyang replied. Is that how you were able to secure your golden jade silk square, fellow Taoist Jingyang? Han Li asked. I'm trying to do you a favor here, fellow Taoist Li. Please don't pry into my personal matters, Taoist Master Jingyang replied in a resigned manner. My apologies. You have my thanks, fellow Taoist. Immortal Lord Hot Flame and the others were naturally oblivious to the conversation that had just taken place, and they continued to drink wine while denouncing Taoist Master Jingyang for being too stingy. Ali. Half a month later, Han Li left the Leisure Valley once again. In accordance with the instructions provided to him by Taoist Master Jingyang, he traveled directly to the Jade Kun Pavilion upon entering Jade Gathering City. Just like last time, the doors of the Jade Kun Pagoda were tightly shut and sealed with talismans. Han Li made his way around the Jade Kun Pagoda, then traveled down a street behind the pagoda until he entered a dead end that was around 6 feet wide. He strode over to the wall at the conclusion of the dead end, then conjured up some immortal spiritual power over the palm of his hand before pressing it against the wall, upon which his entire body sank into the wall. Han Li's vision turned dark for a moment, following which he arrived in a spacious courtyard. Immediately thereafter, the sound of clanging armor rang out, and several warriors clad in suits of bright silver armor converged to surround him. Han Li swept his gaze over these warriors and was surprised to discover that none of them were living beings. Instead, they were all Tao warriors, and what was most remarkable about them was their suits of armor were riddled with spirit patterns that were giving off formidable energy fluctuations. Each one of them seemed to possess grand ascension stage power, which was naturally completely insignificant in the face of a golden immortal, but there were potentially some other special restrictions concealed in their bodies. Who goes there? One of the Tao warriors asked in a rather mechanical voice. I heard that the Jade Kun Pagoda requires a pill refinement master, so I've come here to try my luck, Han Li replied in a direct and straightforward manner. Come with me, the Tao warrior instructed, then began to make its way toward a hall at the back of the courtyard. Han Li followed along behind the Tao warrior, while the other Tao warriors also trailed along, continuing to surround Han Li in a loose encirclement. Upon arriving at the entrance of the hall, the Tao warriors formed 2 lines on either side of the entrance before falling still, while Han Li took a brief glance at his surroundings before entering the hall. The interior of the hall was brightly lit, and there were 3 large chairs placed at its entrance. The chairs on either side were occupied by a thin elderly man wearing a tall hat and a burly elderly man with a dark red complexion, while the middle chair was vacant. Both of the men were wearing the same attire with a flame design embroidered onto the chest of their robes, within which was what appeared to be a pair of iron hammers crossed over each other. You're here to apply for the role of pill appraiser, the thin man on the left asked in a slightly raspy voice. That's right, Han Li replied. Do you know what prerequisite must be satisfied for the role? The burly man on the right asked. No, Han Li replied. We need a pill refinement master that can refine at least high zenith stage pills. Do you fit the bill? The thin man asked. Does that mean that if I can refine high zenith stage pills, I'll receive a golden jade silk square? Han Li asked. That's right. If you can do that, then you'll be able to attend the auction, but of course, you have to fulfill your duties as a pill appraiser at the event, the burly man confirmed with a nod. Han Li didn't waste any more time, cutting straight to the chase as he asked, Do you have a pill refinement chamber here that I can use? You can use the side hall to your left, the burly man replied. Han Li did as he was told, making his way into the side hall before closing the door. Right at this moment, a figure slowly emerged from the back of the hall, then sat down casually onto the middle chair, He then took a glance at the side hall to the left and chuckled. It looks like he's set up an isolation restriction of quite a high caliber. How cautious. Is he really able to refine high zenith stage pills, Deputy Mountain Master? The thin man asked as he turned to the man in the middle chair. Who knows, we'll just have to wait and see. Ali. Close to half a year flew by in the blink of an eye, and on this day, the door of the side hall finally swung open. After one failure, Han Li used his final remaining batch of ingredients to refine 3 clear jade pills. These pills are of an exceptional quality and contain tremendous spiritual qi. Out of all of the clear jade pills I've seen, these definitely rank among the top 3. The thin man praised in an ecstatic voice as he examined the freshly refined batch of pills. The burly man was far more calm and composed, but there was still a pleased smile on his face as he agreed. Indeed, you definitely possess the pill refinement nous required to take on the role of pill appraiser during the auction. Han Li accepted the clear jade pills that were being handed back to him by the thin man, then smiled as he asked, in that case, it's about time that fellow Taoist Jingyang came out to see me, right? The expressions of both men stiffened slightly upon hearing this, and they exchanged an awkward glance with one another. Right at this moment, Taoist Master Jingyang emerged from the back of the hall as he chuckled. As expected of you to have correctly guessed my identity right away, fellow Taoist Li. He was also wearing a robe of the same style as the other 2 men in the hall, except the flame design embroidered onto the chest of the robe was golden in color. It was quite obvious. Back when I first arrived here, they didn't even ask who I was before allowing me to commence my pill refinement attempt right away, so they clearly already knew who I was in advance. On top of that, they were already aware that I would come here. To make things even more obvious, the main chair in the hall had been left vacant, all but telling me that there was someone else overseeing the proceedings from behind the scenes, Han Li said with a smile. You really should learn to be more subtle and tactful, fellow Taoist Li. Taoist Master Jingyang chuckled as he took a glance at the vacant chair in the hall. After that, he dismissed the other 2 men, then began making his way toward the back of the hall. I wanted to lay things out to you in a more direct fashion, but this auction is being jointly held by the Black Mountain Immortal Palace and our 100 Creations Mountain, and there are some rules that I have to follow. I'm already aware of your pill refinement prowess, so I only asked you to come here as a formality more than anything else, Taoist Master Jingyang explained. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, fellow Taoist Jingyang. May I ask what your true identity is? Han Li asked. Taoist Master Jingyang heaved a faint sigh upon hearing this, and he pulled out a wine gourd from beneath his robe, then took a sip of wine before replying. I am one of the 72 Deputy Mountain Masters of the 100 Creations Mountain, and I'm responsible for overseeing our Black Soil Immortal Region branch. Black Soil Immortal Region, not the Black Mountain Immortal Region, Han Li asked with a perplexed expression. The Black Soil Immortal Region, the Black Mountain Immortal Region, the Concealed Lake Immortal Region, and the Origin Contention Immortal Region are very close to each other, and aren't separated by any primordial lands, so they're collectively known as the 4 allied immortal regions. Our 100 Creations Mountain branch is set in the Black Soil Immortal Region, but it oversees all of the 4 allied immortal regions. Otherwise, a Deputy Mountain Master like myself wouldn't have been assigned to this place, Taoist Master Jingyang explained. In that case, why have you concealed your identity and settled in the Leisure Valley? Han Li asked. I'm a lot like Old Man Hot Flame. I can't stand having to deal with a bunch of official responsibilities. I came to the Black Mountain Immortal Region because I had heard that the Floating Cloud Mountain Range was a great place to escape from worldly responsibilities, and I met Yu Ziki and became close friends with him on the way here, Taoist Master Jingyang explained. Taoist Master Jingyang could see that Han Li was still looking a bit skeptical, and a disgruntled look appeared on his face as he exclaimed, "Quit suspecting me of foul play. I didn't even have to personally oversee this auction, nor did I want to get involved, but I did so anyway just to gather information about floral heart stones for you. You should be grateful rather than suspicious." Han Li's expression eased slightly upon seeing this, and he asked, "Is that really the case?" "Well, I suppose that's not entirely true. I always come to attend these auctions, but only on my own behalf. It's just that this time, I'm getting involved in the official side of things," Taoist Master Jingyang admitted as a sheepish smile appeared on his face. "In any case, I must thank you, fellow Taoist Jingyang. You can have the brewing recipes for fire drop wine and red mulberry wine in return for what you've done for me. As for everyone else in the Leisure Valley, rest assured, I won't speak of this to anyone," Han Li said as he cupped his fist in a grateful salute. Taoist Master Jingyang immediately gave Han Li a thumbs up as he praised, "You're a true man of honor, fellow Taoist Li. Come, 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 let us share a cup. Today it's just you and me. We shall not return until we're both drunk." 200 years was nothing more than the blink of an eye in the floating cloud mountain range. Over the past 200 years, the residents of the mountain range continued to while away their days, engaging in various hobbies and leisurely activities, enjoying life in the ways that they saw fit, as opposed to focusing on cultivation. During this time, some more residents had moved into the mountain range, while some had left, but not much attention was paid to these personnel shifts. The true immortal realm was still the same true immortal realm, but several generations had already passed by in the mortal world, and perhaps even dynasties had come and gone. Every once in a while, Han Li would return to Jade Gathering City to search for profound Zoisia crystals, and during those trips, he had sold and bought pills and spirit medicines from many of the shops in the inner city. As a result, they had all become quite familiar with him, and it soon became common knowledge that there was an outer sect elder of the Fire Leaf sect searching for a floral heart stone. However, during his past few visits to the city, Han Li noticed that many places in the city were under repair, and decorations had already been put up on some of the main streets in anticipation for the celebratory ceremony that was to take place in the city once every 3,000 years. In particular, over the past few months, ships had been flying into the city from all parts of the Black Mountain Immortal region, and even from the neighboring few Immortal regions, so all of the docks in the city had become very busy. There were also all types of signs and banners hung up outside the shops in the city, carrying phrases like "great quality and fair prices," and "all immortals and mortals welcome." There were also some more unique advertisements like "buy one get one free," "big discounts inside," and "don't miss these once-in-3,000 years savings." Compared with the past, there were more people in Jade Gathering City, and all of the immortal inns in the city had already reached full capacity. As a result, many of the sects in the city had opened up their spare courtyards for visiting merchants and cultivators to live in, earning some rent in the process. Even the usual peace in the floating cloud mountain range had been broken, with many of its residents planning to enter Jade Gathering City during the festivities to see if they could acquire some items to their liking. Even though they lived quite close to Jade Gathering City, they were anticipating the celebrations just as eagerly as all of the foreign cultivators who had gathered from far and wide. This was because, during the 7 days in which the celebrations were held, all of the restrictions in the city were lifted, and everyone was allowed to visit the outer and inner cities as they pleased. On top of that, hundreds of auctions hosted by various different powers were going to be held in the city, and the most prominent one of all of them was none other than the auction jointly held by the Black Mountain Immortal Palace and the 100 Creations Mountain in the Jade Kun Pagoda. The reason why this auction was garnering so much attention wasn't just because of its powerful official backing. Instead, it was because there were several premium items that appeared in virtually every single auction that were highly sought after even for high zenith stage Jade Immortals. Whenever such a treasure appeared, a fierce bidding war would inevitably follow, and regardless of who managed to secure the item in the end, it would be a story that was told for a long time to come. 7 days before the commencement of the ceremony, Han Li arrived in the Jade Kun Pagoda with Taoist Master Jingyang. There was an underground palace inside the pagoda, within which were all types of intricate formations and restrictions, and there were also 3 golden immortal stage elders stationed inside at all times. This was where all of the auction items were being stored. Han Li and the other 2 pill appraisers began to appraise the pills and spirit medicines among the auction items, with Taoist Master Jingyang in accompaniment, cataloging the items one after another. Only on the eve of the ceremony were all of the auction items finally cataloged and stored away appropriately. Having already grown accustomed to a peaceful life of leisure, the past few days of toil had taken quite a toll on Taoist Master Jingyang, and as soon as all of the tasks that he had to attend to were completed, he immediately made his way to the courtyard that Han Li was staying in. Even before he announced his arrival, Han Li had already opened the door before inviting him into the room. After Taoist Master Jingyang had taken a seat, Han Li poured a cup of tea for him, then jibed, "It's a good feeling to be doing everything in person, isn't it? It's been a very long time since I've had to conduct official duties like this, and I have to say, it's quite exhausting," Taoist Master Jingyang replied with a wry smile. He then took a slightly disdainful glance at the tea that Han Li had poured for him before asking, "Do you have any more fire drop wine? Didn't I already give you the wine recipe? Why are you still asking me for wine?" Han Li asked. "Don't be so stingy. Your wine is much more aged than mine. My wine is only less than 150 years old, so it doesn't taste anywhere near as good. Also, I'm not just drinking your wine for free. I have some insider information to divulge to you," Taoist Master Jingyang said as he lowered his voice in a mysterious manner. Han Li could only give a wry smile upon hearing this, then swept a sleeve through the air to summon a dark gray wine jar. "This is the final jar in my collection, and it's even older than the one I treated you to last time, so whatever insider information you have for me better be worth my while," Han Li said as he removed the clay seal of the jar. As the rich fragrance of the wine filled the entire room, Taoist Master Jingyang's eyes immediately lit up, and he eagerly filled a teacup with wine before downing it in one go, then smacked his lips with a blissful expression as he savored the residual flavor of the wine. "This is truly some exceptional wine," Taoist Master Jingyang praised as he reached out for the wine jar again, only to be stopped by Han Li. "What insider information do you have to tell me?" Han Li asked. "Can't you wait for me to have a few more cups of wine first?" Taoist Master Jingyang complained. "Hurry up," Han Li urged. "Fine. The profound Zoisia crystal that you're looking for has turned up. The final batch of auction items that arrived this afternoon just so happened to include a profound Zoisia crystal," Taoist Master Jingyang revealed. An ecstatic look immediately appeared on Han Li's face upon hearing this. "Don't celebrate just yet," Taoist Master Jingyang continued. "The projected starting price for the crystal will be 1,000 immortal origin stones, and the final selling price could easily be several times the starting price. Do you have enough money to afford it?" Han Li was internally rather amused to hear this. For the average golden immortal, several thousand immortal origin stones would indeed be a significant sum, but it wasn't a concern at all for Han Li. "Don't forget that I'm a pill refinement master, fellow Taoist Jingyang. My spending is very extravagant, but I can earn money just as quickly. I've already planned for this for a very long time, so I'm naturally well prepared, Han Li replied with a smile. Despite Han Li's reassurance, Taoist Master Jingyang wasn't entirely convinced that Han Li wasn't being overconfident. Having attended so many of these auctions himself, he had seen far too many people going in with what they perceived to be more than sufficient funds, only to fall well short in the end. However, instead of directly expressing his skepticism, Taoist Master Jingyang said, "If you don't have enough immortal origin stones on the day, you can pawn some pills to our 100 Creations Mountain, and I'll make sure to offer you some good prices. If you wish to buy back the pills, you can do so at the same price. How does that sound?" "That's very kind of you, fellow Taoist Jingyang," Han Li replied as he pushed the entire jar of fire drop wine toward Taoist Master Jingyang. Ali. The next morning, a resounding bell chime rang out across the entirety of Jade Gathering City. All 4 of the inner city's gates were opened, and the cultivators stationed at the city gates had also been removed, but the number of cultivators patrolling the city walls had increased by severalfold. As the restrictions on the city gates faded, all of the cultivators that were already waiting outside eagerly poured into the inner city. The peaceful streets and alleys of the inner city instantly became very rowdy and lively as throngs of people spread throughout the inner city, with some visiting the shops that lined the streets, while others went to attend the auctions being held. All of a sudden, the inner city had become even more lively and bustling than the outer city. At night, the decorative lanterns in the inner city were lit, basking the entire place in a bright red glow, and fireworks were also set off atop the city walls to further enhance the celebratory atmosphere. 6 days flew by in a flash, and it was finally time for the heavily anticipated Jade Kun Pagoda auction. As part of the auction's organizer panel, Han Li and Taoist Master Jingyang were able to enter the auction venue ahead of everyone else. From the outside, the Jade Kun Pagoda appeared to be no different from an ordinary pagoda, but it was extraordinarily spacious inside. At the center of the pagoda was a large circular stone platform that was clearly going to be used to display the auction items, and there was a tight and orderly circle of small guest suites around the stone platform. Overall, there were several hundred of these guest suites on the first, second, and third floors. Each suite contained a table and a cushion, and on each table was placed an incense burner, as well as some spirit fruits and a flagon of fine wine. Han Li and Taoist Master Jingyang made their way into a guest suite on the second floor, and inside was a young woman in a palace dress, who immediately brought in an additional cushion before filling their cups with wine. Han Li took a glance at the woman, and to his surprise, she was not an actual person. Instead, it was a puppet that was giving off a core formation stage aura. Han Li withdrew his gaze from the puppet, then asked, "Are you really not going to host the auction, fellow Taoist Jingyang?"